the most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic, real-world cars,
Life happens
and over 50
like
sims.
it never even happened. Only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com. Every day in business starts with a number. Output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers, because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow or even stop. Unless you know this one, 1-800-SERVPRO, the number one choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what might just be the biggest American Sim Racing Series race of the year, the Glass Door Brewing 250 from the famed Daytona International Speedway. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be an awesome 2020 Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. It all starts here tonight, and it goes all the way through the remainder of the 2020 season, all the way back until November. It's going to be a long one for these drivers this season, but in front of us here tonight, 100 laps, 250 miles, 250 miles, almost 250 miles an hour, not quite, 200 miles an hour around this famed 2.5-mile racetrack. It should be an absolute doozy. I'm Peter Short, and joining me here in the booth is Mr. Carlos Acosta. And Carlos, man, it's been a long offseason for these American Sim Racing Series drivers. I'm sure they're wanting to be back in the race car, but I'll tell you what, Mitch Brown, he was the story of last season. Do you think he can keep it up this year?
It's going to be difficult to tell for sure, Peter, but I, for one, can't wait to get this season started and see if that might be the case. Mitch Brown took pretty much almost every single crown this last season, and I'm sure these drivers, they don't want to hear that anymore. They want to defeat Mitch the best way they can, and if it's going to be anything like last season, it's going to be a really exciting season.
Yeah, we got an absolute huge field for you here tonight at Daytona for this 250-mile, 100-lap event. Of course, brought to you by Glass Door Brewing. Got to give a shout-out to them, as well as Hacksaw PC jumping on board this season for the Premier Series sponsor. And the champion, Carlos, is going to get a Hacksaw PC. That's the trophy for winning this season's Premier Series title, which is very, 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 very cool. I know I want a new PC all the time, so someone will get a new PC out of this year. Got to give a shout out to ServPro for also jumping on board. Those ServPro cars last week, Carlos, in the duels were very, very fast, and they were able to get into the show, so I'm sure ServPro very happy to see those cars in the field. DB Sim Racing, American Regardless, also on board for this year. Of course, American Regardless coming back. They were here last year. American Regardless making clothing, so very cool. Check them out. Victory Lane Quick Oil Change, Kirkwood Transportation, Patriot Media and Marketing. In fact, Patriot will be on the number 51 machine of Mitch Brown here tonight. Step Tire and Falcon Race Reps also supporting the American Sim Racing Series here for the 2020 season. But Carlos, the sky is nice and blue. You see not very many clouds in the sky. The racetrack is nice and toasty. And we are going to go over here in just a minute to the qualifying session. So, Carlos, there you go. Track temperature, 91 degrees Fahrenheit. Air temperature, only 73 with some slight southeast winds. But, Carlos, we were in Daytona last night here for another series. And it looked like this racetrack races quite slick with this this package that we're seeing. It's going to be difficult for these drivers to keep it on the road, but hopefully we can stay clean and green for most of this race. What are your thoughts about coming here to Daytona? What have you seen in practice as well?
Definitely mixed strategies. However, what I've seen in practice is a little bit. I haven't gathered enough knowledge, enough data, considering the fact that these drivers only had less than 25 minutes since the server began. ASRS has very short race day actual servers, so you gotta get your practice done somewhere else. What I have noticed throughout the previous week and throughout practice and other races this week, it's you're gonna find yourself with a mixed bag of strategies. I don't think any of these drivers are gonna be trying to do a fuel mileage, as we saw that kind of failed in the real life Cup series. But what we are gonna find is drivers hanging out in the back. As a matter of fact, I was actually talking to one Mr. Will Wursler earlier before you showed up. And he was conflicted into what he wanted to do, and I told him. I told him how I approach plate racing, and before I used to just approach it, just hang it on the back, and then make my way up front towards the end. But that usually ended up with me losing track of laps and not having enough speed to make a move there at the end. I also told him that how I approach these races, I assume I'm gonna finish last every time, and I expect to finish last every time. That way, when I don't finish last, I guess I get extra points for me to calculate it, my average prediction year.
You definitely don't set your hopes too high when you come to a super speedway, that is for sure. But we got a huge field here tonight, Carlos. I mean, there's going to be a lot of cars out there on the racetrack. I'm sure there's going to be those drivers kind of like you kind of alluded to, going to be laying back thinking, let's just see if this race comes to me. Let's not do all the hard racing in the early going. And then you'll have some drivers who want to do that hard racing because, tell you what, hard racing is fun racing. You want to be out there side by side with all your competitors lap after lap because it is just flat out fun. And that is why all these drivers are here. You can see the racetrack is now very quiet. A lot of drivers on pit road right now because it is a drivers meeting. And Carlos, the man giving the drivers meeting this week, Jim Foose in the number 42 machine. You won't see that Menards number 42 on the racetrack because Jim Foose has hung up the helmet, so to speak, and now he is pretty much focusing on adminning these races. Same thing with Sam Maxwell. Of course, Sam Maxwell and Sam Maxwell Customs, a big series sponsor last year, and Sam's kind of taken his number 98 machine off the racetrack as well to be up there in the tower. There are going to be 3 admins for this race here tonight with so many cars in the field. And Carlos, I am thoroughly looking forward to this. Last week, we had so many cars try to qualify for this event. I think it was 65 total cars entered into this race, but 65 did not make it. Multiple cars in the twin races that we had last week did not make it through to this one. And, as a race car driver, Carlos, how gut-wrenching is it to miss out on this Glass Door 250?
It's well, I personally could not speak from experience because every league or special event that I've attempted for either didn't have enough drivers for there to be knockout qualifying, or I qualified my way in. So I can't personally speak from experience, but I can only just imagine the heartache they must be having, especially when you're looking forward all off season, looking forward to getting back into racetrack, and then having to miss that first start. Knowing that in some cases you weren't fast enough, or in other cases you didn't have your luck go your way. So the ways to qualify for this event, there are 3 main ways. Lock yourself in based on points. So the fastest 14 were locked in on points, and I have that right here. That's the number 1, the number 6, the number 8, which, by the way, the number 8 will not be racing tonight, so there did have to be a reserve driver hopping in. The number 11, the number 12, the number 17, 24, 28, 29, the number 34, 41, 43, 51, 66, and 67. Those were all locked in based on points of last year. The second way to lock yourself in would be to race your way in on the duels, and the highest 8 positions on the duels made it in, and that's the 85, the 37, the 81, the 46, the 15, the 3, the 99, the 89, the 21, the 02, the 72, the 7, the 55, the 50, the 84, and the 36. And the last the last main way to get yourself in would be to be set on qualifying time. So those 8 drivers that already were not locked in from the the remaining drivers that were not locked in from the duels could get themselves locked in based on their qualifying times. So that'll be the 8 highest qualifying drivers, and that would be the 95, the 83, the 57, the 61, the 97, the 9, the 27, the 2, and the 53, and of course one provisional, which would be the 80s, which would be the 87th. There is also, of course, the provisional is the 4th way. The 5th way is also the promoter's choice, which that would be Jay Crable, but he already made his way in based on qualifying time. So, Peter, it's a very difficult group, and a lot of drivers did not make it. It's a little too much for me to count. I don't have that information with me right now, but a lot of drivers got sent home, Peter, and that's just tough.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and those 2 Kirkwood duels that we had last week, Carlos, 2 spectacular races. The first one went caution-free, which was absolutely awesome to see. They didn't wreck until pretty much coming to the start-finish line, but the second race, a little bit more action in that one. Both races were actually timed events. It was either 40 laps or 30 minutes, and both of them fell foul of that 30-minute mark. So they ended up being 39 laps in the first one, and a little bit shorter than that in the second race. So that was a very interesting kind of wrench that these drivers had to fight with last week. But don't worry, they won't have to fight with a time limit this week. The unofficial time limit in this one is over 2 hours. So there'll be plenty of time to get all 100 scheduled laps, the 250 miles here at the World Center of Racing. Got to give a shout out to some of the people in the chat. We got Fernando Matos, of course, one of the Sim Possible drivers who was racing here last night on 3YTV. Clarence Bonner, another driver in the chat. Nikki Warsler, always rooting for her husband, Will Warsler. He'll be driving in this one in the number 29 Porcupine's Slice Machine. No Mercy in the chat as well. And of course, we also have Mark Cohn, Tessa Crable, Jay Crable, John Gallagher, and No Mercy. Got to give a shout out to them. So thank you for joining us here tonight. It's going to be an absolute fun event once we go green flag racing here in just a little bit. But the practice session is wrapping up. In fact, the drivers meeting appears to be wrapping up. We'll have to see whether or not we get a quick pit party right at the end of this session. Of course, for those of you in the chat not familiar with the term pit party, that's when everyone rolls out onto the racetrack at the same time in practice. But as of right now, those engines are staying quiet as we see the number 55 of Brian Yazik. And there's a good-looking Serve Pro paint scheme. There's a couple of those paint schemes in this race. That's Eric Stanford. Great showing last week in the first of the 2 Kirkwood duels. Won that race based off of a pit stop. Some amazing pit strategy and amazing execution on pit road. Got those Serve Pro cars out front. There's Steve Buhala on pit road. And there's the number 24 machine that's driven by Alan Young. And right in front of him, there's Will Warsler in that Slice Porcupine's number 29 machine. As we also see the 6 of Jared Haggerty in the Cheerwine Toyota. Great looking car. And right behind him, the 84 of Woody Mahan. Good show for him last week as well. There's the number 3. That is always, or was previously, I believe, driven by Pete Baskins in the number 3 machine. But now it's James Lorello will be sporting that number 3 this season. There's the number 7. That's John Jenkins there, Carlos.
Yeah, so we got just almost 1 minute left in quote-unquote practice drivers meetings going on, and I don't think they're going to grid up, or at least if something happens, they're not going to get enough speed for anything pretty cool to happen at all. But it's exciting, and I remember last year when we were asked to come broadcast these races. Initially, we were told that that ASRS would be going a different way with broadcasters. However, something happened at the last moment, and they called on us to take over. And boy, oh boy, did we take over! And I believe it was 2 days worth of prep time, Peter. But we got everything set up, and we got everything rolling and ready to broadcast literally a minute before we were supposed to go live. And a whole year has gone by. I've had a blast, Peter. I don't know about you. It's just been a fun time broadcasting these guys.
Yeah, I mean, you going back 1 year to all the stress that we were in for the first American Sim Racing Series, it's nice to have a season under our belts. Of course, commentating these drivers, get to know them and know a little bit about their backstories, as we have seen them on the racetrack many, many times, of course, last year in the SMS Cup Series and the Sam Maxwell Custom Truck Series. If you never watched last season's American Sim Racing Series, go check them out. Those races are archived here on YouTube. In fact, there's a playlist, so you can just go watch all of the Premier Series races from last year. But this year, we keep an eye on all these drivers, and of course, Hacksaw PC's jumping on board. It's always great to have a title sponsor, and now we finally have race cars on the track for the first full points paying event here. As you see the number 66 machine, that of course is driven by Edward Bray, and there's the number 27. Keep an eye on that machine. That's Pete Baskins this year, and he's got to get well soon. Sandy and Jim on the back bumper of that race car, of course, alluding to the mother and father of Jim Foose. Hopefully they are recovering well after a car accident recently. There's the number 99 machine. That's Clarence Bonner. Same number, but completely new scheme on that machine. Got Kirkwood on the hood. Going through turn number 3 and 4. There's James Lorello in that number 3 machine. Good looking race car as he's going to come to the start-finish line. Of course, here at Daytona, all these cars on their first time lap will be running right up next to the wall to get as much momentum and speed as possible. There's the number 22 machine. That's Michael Whiting. Got to keep an eye out for that bright yellow and black machine. Kind of reminds me of the Bumblebee. Michael Whiting, the Bumblebee. Maybe that's what his nickname will be this season here in the American Sim Racing Series. But there's 21. Nick Cohan, as you see, a lot of these drivers sporting new paint schemes. If you followed us here last year in the American Sim Racing Series and you got used to all those paint schemes, we'll throw most of that out because most of these drivers are sporting new schemes this year. Some of them are fairly similar to what they sported last year, but some of them are completely different. Of course, the 55 machine of Brian Yazik, he actually sported that paint scheme in the last race of last year. And I'll tell you what, I really liked that number 55 machine. It was nice and bright, blue and yellow, and he's got that race car out there right now. There's the number 12 machine of Brian Yazik.
Nope.
Excuse me, not Brian Yazik, Steve Buhala. I had Brian Yazik on my mind, but yes, that's Steve Buhala.
Same paint scheme, different
got a
number.
Hulko. Yeah, he's got the Hulko Intercon on the hood once again, and like you said, Carlos, different number. Now moving over into the number 12. So even some of these numbers have changed as we have lap times trickling in. Ed Bray in the number 66 machine so far sitting atop the leaderboard in that machine. Got Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson motorcycles on the hood. Now we go on Wilson. Dave Wilson sporting 3Y TV on the hood. So very cool to see our name out there on the racetrack. And I got to say, Dave, hopefully you can keep it clean for us here tonight. I don't want a crumpled up 3Y TV because I'll tell you what, Carlos, sometimes we feel like we're all crumpled up here on 3Y TV. But very cool to see that race car out there. Good looking paint scheme as well. And we'll see what Dave Wilson can do. Had a great qualifying lap last week in the Kirkwood duels. Let's see if he can back it up again this week with a good time in this qualifying session. Michael Whiting has gone to the top of the board as I have been speaking. To the 8th position, so he'll probably be starting relatively mid-pack, but it'll be interesting to see when everything shakes out.
That's true, and pardon us for the little bit of audio difficulties. We're trying to get a small issue figured out with ATVO, but I believe we have it fixed now. Yeah, there we go. So I have a feeling that I think my issue is that I need more RAM, so I gotta check out the www.downloadmoreram.com, right, Peter?
Oh, if only it was that easy, right?
If only.
Just download a little bit more RAM. I'll tell you what, that isn't how it exactly works, Carlos. Hopefully you have a couple other RAM slots open on your motherboard so you can slot some in. But I'll tell you what, this number 7 machine. Oh, there you go. That's that.
Gigs,
that will do
not
the
RAM
trick,
slots.
I'm sure.
If I had
60 more RAM slots
yeah.
would definitely. There's the number 50 machine. That's Christopher Bouchard out there on the racetrack, and he was unable to turn a practice time, but he's out there right now and doing a pretty decent job of it. He's currently being scored in the 18th position here. Alex Giese in the 77 machine has gone to top of the board. And I'll tell you what, Carlos, Alex Giese, this time last year at Daytona, that number 77 machine looked really, really fast. So he's rolled off the racetrack once again with a really fast race car. And Alex last season just had the worst of luck. I'll tell you what, that number 77 machine had a target on that car all year long. So hopefully he can shake that monkey off his back here tonight and get himself to victory lane. Looks like this number 7 machine, he's been turning laps for quite some time now. That's John Jenkins. And looks like he's coming down pit road. He's got some of that color mapping on that car. Really clean car. There's a pun intended there because that is the super clean number 7 machine. Oh, man. Doing a little bit of drifting there. Slams on the rear brakes and locks it up.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, Carlos. If you did not practice getting to pit road in practice, you got to do it now. Because we saw green flag pit stops in the first of the 2 Kirkwood duels last week, and I'm expecting to see more here tonight in the Glass Door Brewing 250. Should be an absolute spectacular race, as we still have drivers out there on the racetrack there. Still is the number 50 machine. Turning laps coming out of turn number 4 right now. He has already completed his time lapse, but I think he's just trying to get a feel for that race car because he was not able to turn a practice lap time.
He also went down pit road the last time, and I'm assuming either he stopped in his stall and didn't get out of his car, because it seems to me like he was practicing pit stops. If he is, he wouldn't be going down this last time, just because that would still have been his up to speed lap. But you're gonna practice pit stops maybe this time by now that you're a little bit more up to speed. As if he does that, let's go. We'll go and follow him, his actions, because he is the only one that's on track. Well, Brian Yozik is also on track, but he's actually entering his stall right now, or he's actually entering pit road right now. As we don't have any other drivers qualify. I'm counting about 10 or so drivers that did not put up a lap time, including Mitch Brown, Tyler Salville, Sean Parrish, Tim Knott, Brandon Stokes, David Washington, Will Wursler, Eric Stanford, Richard Fisher, Craig Stiles, Brandon Key, and Sean. Well, actually, Sean is actually the off-track official, so he would not have posted up. He would not have posted up a time. But all these drivers electing to not qualify, and it's a little too late to qualify now. As these drivers, iRacing states they have 10 minutes of qualifying, but realistically, they have, I believe, 6 minutes or 5 minutes to actually put down a lap, and they are no longer allowed to do that again. Also, if they leave the server for whatever reason, during qualifying, they are not allowed to put up a lap anymore. So those are some of the rules that were going on towards the end of last year. They're continuing for this year as well. But 2 minutes left to kill, Peter. We kind of briefly touched it, but I don't know. Let's go with picks. I gotta say, I'm liking those 2 Surf Pro vehicles. They proved that not only in emergencies are they able to handle all the stress, but in the duels that they raced their way in, finishing 1-2, they did it with a strategy of hanging out in the back, which was my old strategy, and then making their way up towards the end after pit stops. And it worked out for them, as they crossed the start-finish line 1-2 in a photo finish, as you had cars behind them wrecking. So, Peter, with a minute and a half, who do you think has this?
Oh, that is going to be the toughest question here tonight. I'd say, looking at the field, there's a lot of good drivers in this group of drivers. But one driver who I am going to point out is Brian Yozik. He was on an absolute tear at the end of last year, finally got a win, and I think he's going to back that up with another win in Florida here at Daytona. Of course, winning that last season points-paying event at Homestead, Miami. So I gotta pick Brian Yozik. He's a smart race car driver. He lays back quite a bit. He's very smart, very patient. I'm going to keep an eye on Brian here tonight. What about you, Carlos?
Well, I like those Surf Pro vehicles, but I gotta say, my money would probably be on Will Wursler, or you know what, the new rookie for the league, David Wilson. And well, I've personally known both of these drivers, but I've known David for a lot longer now, and it's pretty cool that one of the Sim Possible regulars is able to qualify their way into the ASRS series. And I believe David is attempting to run the full season. And well, I like picking him just because of everything he's accomplished, and not just because he does have the 3Y TV sponsorship on the car.
Yeah, that is very, very cool. Got to give a shout out to a couple more people in the chat who are joining us here live on 3 Wide TV. Mr. Cosplay, Mahoney PI, Jake Douglas, Sean Music, and of course, Nikki Wursler, always rooting for the number 29 of Mr. Will Wursler himself, the owner of Will Wursler Racing. There's a couple of Will Wursler Racing machines in this grid here tonight. But speaking of the grid, cars are finally making their way to the pit lane.
That's the wrong button.
So was that already the race results, Carlos?
Nope, that
we
was not it.
We haven't got to the start-finish line yet.
Hey, well,
Green flag not out. You're already throwing the checkered flag. All right. Well, no, I'm just kidding. First race is not over yet. We still have 100 laps, 250 miles to decide this thing. But Alex Giese is going to be starting this one from the pole with a 28.973 lap time, and Michael Whiting just over 1/100th of a second back at the 22, starting to his outside on row number 1. Row number 2, we got the number 37 machine, Jason Eisenhower, and that number 37 machine fast last week in the Kirkwood Duels, trying to do it again here tonight in the Glass Door Brewing 250, and to its outside the 21 of Nick Cohen, yet to make it down to the pit lane. Michael Krobach in the 72 machine will be starting from the 3rd position, and Michael's been having tons of trouble with his internet, and so supposedly he's gone out and completely splurged on some wicked high-speed wireless internet, and he's finally able to get to the grid, so that's good for him. But he's going to start from the 5th position. Chris Stouffer in the 46 machine to his outside. Sam Crow and John Broussard will roll off from the 7th and 8th positions, while Jason Stewart and Richard Stallings will round out your top 10 on row number 5 here. There you go. There you see them. The Toyota of Stewart on the inside and the Chevy of Stallings on the outside, Carlos.
Yeah, in row number 6, we have John Jenkins in the number 7 with Greg Evans on his outside. Greg driving the number 83. In row number 7, Danny Rogers will be the 95, and Steve Puhala, now running in his own team and with his own number, the number 12. Row number 8 will have Edward Bray, the number 66, with the number 3 of James Lorello. Row number 9 will be Kelsey Rogers and Christopher Bucard. Pardon me if I butchered that last name, Christopher. As row number 10 will be Ty Hester and Jake Rabel, Peter.
Yeah, and on row number 11, we find Alan Young and Dave Wilson, not quite able to back up his qualifying time from last week in that 61 machine, but Brian Yazik and Jared Haggerty will roll off from row number 12. There's my pick, the number 55 machine, rolling off 23rd. And the 25th and the 26th position, we find Woody Mahan in the 84 and the 28 of Troy Haight. Behind them, 27th, 28th. Pete Baskins, actually the 27 machine, will roll off from 27 in Andy Veltman to his outside in the number 97 machine. Row number 10, Clarence Bonner and Dave Washington. Clarence Bonner was the last car to take time, so we'll just go through the remainder of tonight's starting lineup. Starting in the 31st position, Craig Sykes, Mitch Brown 32nd, Eric Stanford 33rd, Will Wursler, Shane Parrish 34th, 35th, Brandon Stokes, Tim Knott, Tyler Seville 36th through 38th, and Richard Fletcher will be starting in 39th. I believe that is the last starter for this event. Looks like we do see the 11 of Seville starting from the 38th spot, but pace car here about to head down pit road. We're about to have the first green flag of the 2020 Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series here at the Glass Door Brewing 250, and we are underway. 100 laps, 250 miles from now, we will get the first winner of the 2020 Hacksaw PC season. But all of a sudden, that number 77 machine, Alex Giese, up there at the front, trying to get a little bit of help from behind by the number 37 of Jason Eisenhower as they head through turn number 1 and 2. Eisenhower just staying lockstep in behind him, but that outside line formed up just a little bit better as the 72 of Michael Krobach not quite able to keep up with the back bumper of Eisenhower, and you see that outside groove starting to get a good run here coming down the backstretch, and there goes the number 22 machine, Michael Whiting, to the race lead here as we work our way through turn number 3 and 4. But Carlos, pretty much a clean start throughout the whole field. We're already starting to see a couple drivers in the back start to be patient, but up here at the front, the number 21 of Nick Cohan wants to lead lap number 1.
Yeah, it's very, very crucial that you set your strategy right away. If you want to be at the back and you're at the front, you got to figure out a way to smoothly yet cautiously make your way to the back as quickly as you can. And if you're at the back but want to be at the front, you got a bit of a tough decision. You got to figure out how you want to approach it, because while everybody's together, the draft is very easy to catch up now compared to how it was like a year or two ago. It's still hard to pass where everybody is literally spread out. So you got to make those choices. You got to hope you got some luck with you, and more importantly, keep your fenders clean. You don't want to be making any close calls on lap 5 of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carlos, you know what I'm seeing? I'm starting to see a little bit of teamwork out there. The 3 Surf Pro cars, we saw them in the duels line up with one another, but currently we find David Washington, Eric Stanford, and Shane Parrish back in the 31st through 33rd position, and Parrish and that number 81 machine back there kind of following the 2 in front of them.
Oh, caution, there's a wreck up ahead!
Oh, we got a big wreck! There's a huge wreck on the backstretch. It's involving about 5 or 6 cars. They're still wadding them up down there. And oh my goodness, hard contact. Oh, I think that's Dave Wilson in the 3-wide TV machine who has gone around, but we got quite a few cars with damage. The 24 Alan Young. We'll have to see what happened here. The 84 machine, unfortunately, looks completely toast. Woody Mahan. And, man, you can see all those cars going every which way. The 12 machine of Buhala getting in it. And, oh, boy, a couple of those drivers staying back, Carlos, starting to look good. Let's see what happened here to Dave Wilson. I think it happened in front of Dave Wilson here, Carlos. I think he was an innocent bystander. It happened up with Giese in the 77 machine. And Giese, oh, my goodness, Carlos. I mentioned it earlier, but Alex Giese just seemed to be involved in a lot of accidents, kind of had a bullseye on him last season. And Nick Cohan in the 21 machine, looks like Giese just came up the racetrack in front of the 21 machine. And unfortunately, Nick Cohan, who is off to a stellar start here, as well as the number 3 of Lorello, both of those cars, or all 3 of those cars, now wadded up here in the early going.
Yeah, taking a look at the replay, it looks like the number 77 of Alex Giese just wasn't clear enough as he came up across, I can't actually see what number that was, but came up across a vehicle and just wasn't clear, resulting in this pretty major incident.
Yeah, Alex Giese in the 77 machine, your pole sitter, has taken that car to the garage. And there you see, just kind of washed up the racetrack. I think he thought he was clear. Oof, the number 37 machine of Eisenhower getting a good chunk of it as well. Look at the number 6 machine, Haggerty, going all the way down on the bottom side of the racetrack. Ooh, there's the number 7 machine, John Jenkins, getting a piece of it. Unfortunately, that number 7 is no longer super clean. It's got a little bit of damage on the front end of it. Of course, John running the super clean, tough task cleaner and degreaser. Here we go, on board with the 6 of Haggerty and the Cheerwine machine, yeah, going all the way down. And Carlos, that was a very wise move by the number 6.
Yeah, that was, and it prevented him from having a torn up race car, but very early on, I'm sure this is not how the majority of these drivers wanted to start the season. Lap 5, getting involved in a wreck, or I guess lap 4, so I almost kind of called it, but wow, that's just a bad way to start the season for these drivers, as I believe Alex Giese would be getting a strike for that. I'm not sure if he's going to call that one on himself or the race officials are going to award that one onto him. As well, if you start off the season in this bad of a shape, you only have one way to go, and that's going to go up. So It may be a bad start, but this is a long season. We are no longer running a split series trucks and cups. We are only exclusively running the cup series all season long. And Peter, the type of changes this is going to do and the type of racing they're going to have to do with these many races, how would you, getting involved in this race, how would you be feeling about that?
Well, we heard from quite a few drivers towards the end of last season that the Cup car, it just races different. It's sometimes races like a super speedway on certain tracks, like California. We saw that last year in the American Sim Racing Series Premier Series. But I think it's just going to be different. You're going to have drivers who go to certain racetracks and just perform well because of the way the car drives. And I know on the flip side of it, we're going to have some drivers like the 51 and Mitch Brown. He won the Triple Crown last year, winning both the Truck Cup and the Premier Series titles. He's going to have to work quite a bit more this season to get to victory lane. That man right there, Will Wurzler, also getting the checkered flag quite a few times. He's going to have to work a little bit harder in that sliced porcupines machine.
Yeah, pardon me as I'm going through puberty there. Taking a look at some of the drivers that are still in pit road involving the 61, the 37. I'm also seeing Greg Evans. I'm also seeing a couple drivers already going to the garage, and I see Brandon Key, Alex Giese, and Nick Cohan already loading it up in the hauler. So really bad start for these drivers as it's just not what they wanted to do.
Yeah, and we also have drivers like Jason Eisenhower missing a front end. We got Greg Evans missing a front end. Woody Mahan in the 84 also looking like a Model 5. Steve Buhala has all four corners of that number 12 machine crinkled in. Quite a few cars involved in that accident. The Surf Pro cars, however, remember they were laying back a little bit, kind of running together. They all got on the binders, slowed up, and we're not involved in that machine. So your picks, Carlos, are looking fairly good out there right now. But a couple of drivers just taking it easy and kind of letting the race come to them. And, that's usually my strategy on a racetrack like this. Usually just kind of leave it until things start to calm down up at the front and then start to make your move up through the field. But I believe that Dave Wilson has called it a day, perhaps, in that number 61 machine. So that'll be a tough break for Dave.
Yeah, quick update before we do go back to green. It's Alex Giese on the driver's chat saying that he is gutted. He thought he was clear and he made a bad move, and he wants to apologize to everybody that was involved. So before we do go back to green, we're going to go ahead and take a quick 15-second commercial from the fantastic sponsor tonight.
Yeah, it's a big mess. But don't worry, cleanup's already underway.
When the things that matter most are on the line, make sure we are too. The disaster recovery team at 1-800-SERVE-PRO. Like it never even happened.
All right, we want to thank Surf Pro for helping on the league as well as sponsoring the Surf Pro Challenge. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I believe Peter has more notes on that. But 1 to green, Peter, and already carnage 4 laps into this race. Do you expect more carnage, or do you think the drivers are going to settle in now that a driver has made a mistake?
I think these drivers now know that a couple of these drivers are not going to take it easy, and that is going to change their mentality, I am sure. And I know it would change mine. If you already start to see a couple drivers start to get racy, that means there are going to be other drivers out there be fairly racy. So if I'm a driver a little bit further back, like Danny Rogers, who's now tail end of the longest line, or Will Wurzler, yeah, I'm going to take things easy. Let them race it out, but we'll see what happens here as the green flag is back in the air, as we now have completed 7 of the first 100 laps in the 2020 Hacksaw PC Premier Series, and it is the number 22 machine. Really, the only leader who was free of that accident, Michael Whiting. See, he jumped out to a pretty big lead there, Carlos, and the field sucked up to him very, very quickly. Now he's got the number 6 machine, Jared Haggerty, right on his bumper, and I mean right on the bumper of that number 22 Brookside Equipment Sales machine as they bump back down the backstretch. And I think we're going to see that number 6 machine jump out here in a second. If he can get a run, I think Jared Haggerty is going to want to take this race lead. He's one of those drivers, can be fairly aggressive. We saw that last year a couple times. And Jared Haggerty here running second in that Cheerwine machine. Remember, he made that amazing move down there to be in the grass to avoid the carnage that happened just a few laps ago. There you go. Oh, my goodness. I don't know if these spotters are sleeping up there atop the tri-oval there, Carlos, but that was almost the second time we had a big collision in this race. I mean, luckily the 66 of Edward Bray decided to back out of it in his Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson machine, but wow, that was close. Very, very close, but here comes Haggerty for the race lead. No harm, no foul up at the front, and that number 6 Cheerwine machine digging to try and lead this lap.
I really hope Edward Bray is wearing some brown fire pants. I completely forgot what they were called, as that was very, very close, and Jared Haggerty may be able to get away with that once, maybe twice, but late in that race, nobody is going to move out of the way for you, and you will wreck. So that's something that Jared Haggerty is probably being yelled upon right now. If not from the 66, maybe some other driver and officials letting him know just how risky that move was. As that outside line, we're seeing some tandem drafting there. As that 66 with no help, that 66 and the 36 with no help behind them was able to almost get the lead. He did get a fender across, but just not enough oomph to clear that vehicle. As I don't know, we saw some tandem drafting work in real life. Maybe it's starting to happen back up again with these I believe it's called I actually don't know. I know it's not a restrictor plate. Is it a tapered spacer they're running now?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it's almost the same thing. It's still restricting the horsepower of these engines, but nonetheless, Edward Bray has cut down in front of the 6 of Jared Haggerty. And unfortunately for Ty Hester, he's been kind of left out there high and dry in that number 36 machine, starting to slide back a little bit. It's got Michael Whiting now in the 22 machine to his inside, but he has to go quite a ways back until you find the number 7 machine of John Jenkins. Remember, Jenkins involved in that accident, got a little bit of damage, but running fairly quickly. He is being scored 1 lap down in the 32nd position. We currently only have 30 cars on the lead lap of the 39 who started this event. Those drivers 1 lap down include Jenkins, Stewart, Eisenhower, and then you got quite a few. Looks like that's 84 Woody Mahan coming out onto the racetrack right now in the Mahan Speed Laboratories machine. He's well off the pace, unfortunately missing a front end, but up at the front, let's keep an eye on the 66 of Edward Bray, doing a little bit of line swapping here and trying to get the lead and hold off the 36 of Ty Hester. And Edward Bray now back up at the front. The 6 of Haggerty has slid back into third. So the 66 and the 36 working pretty well with one another here in the early going here at Daytona, Carlos.
Yes, that's right. As the 66 of Edward Bray, a lap or two ago, he moved up high to not really block the 36 because the 36 was not in a position to be blocked. But it kind of looked to me like he was letting the 6 of Jared Haggerty just go on by and take the lead because for whatever reason, maybe Jared really wanted the lead and was pushing him far more than Edward could have hoped. But it was all done so that these two can get together, the 36 and the 66, and they went from slightly losing the lead to getting it back up and clearing the number 6. Clearing the number 6 to get themselves back 1-2 in the inside row. And Mahoney PI, it's entirely possible that the stream may be lagging a little bit. I did not expect my PC to be under such strain. It actually isn't under strain, but something's happening with iRacing and ATVO. I believe ATVO is not liking all the system memory that's being used. So after this race, I will go purchase some more dedicated RAM. And put it on my PC so that hopefully we don't have this problem anymore, because my processor is doing just fine. As that would be the only thing I can think of. But going back into this race, single file, pretty much the majority of these leaders is trying to see where the next break is in. I believe there's a 2-wide battle with the 27, but this second pack appears to be driving a little more dangerously or a little bit more aggressively than expected, including these Surf Pro vehicles, as they're kind of in the middle of this second pack that's going double file. And to me, that's kind of, it's like screaming warning flags. If your strategy is to hang out in the back, honestly, right now the front's the place to be, considering that they're all single file, Peter.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where if you start to fall a little bit too far back, you start to panic. And I've seen that happen before, where some drivers decide to take it a little bit easy, but they take it a little bit too easy, and then they fall too far back. And when they fall too far back, they start bumping and banging, trying to catch back up with the lead group, and then that leads to accidents. So there is kind of a nice little comfy area where you can be, but then you can be outside of your comfort zone, and things can all of a sudden go awry when they're not supposed to. But I'm keeping an eye, Carlos, a little bit further back on the HPP simulation machines of Michael Krobach and Brian Yazik. They're starting to use the outside groove, and they are 2 cars on a mission. There they are, and they've moved up quite a few spots over the last 2 laps now, pulling a little bit of a draft off of the number 9 machine of Brandon Stokes in front of him, as well as the number 24 of Alan Young. Alan Young keeping with the pack very well in that maroon number 24 machine. Remember, he is one of those drivers who was involved in that first accident here, and it looks like Pete Baskins in the number 27 machine jumping up there with his teammates as well. So, a couple of HPP simulation machines up top currently, and I'm not all too surprised that Yazik and Krobach are working together. They work very well with one another. We've seen it multiple times here in the American Sim Racing Series, and now catching up to what would be this lead group. The high line currently being led by the 24 of Alan Youngs. The 7 machine, got to keep an eye on that number 7. John Jenkins currently in the lucky dog spot. If we were to get another yellow, that 7 machine would be able to be back on the lead lap. So very, very important position. Oh, whoa. Big stack up there. Bull still stacking them up. A little bit of an accordion there. A couple of drivers having to jump on the binders. And Carlos, that's why that outside groove works so well sometimes, because on that inside groove, it really stacks up. You have to use a little bit more wheel in the race car. The car kind of slows down because of it. And right there, we almost saw another big accident. Good heads-up driving by all of the drivers involved in that. John Jenkins, one of those. The number 50 machine as well, Christopher Bouchard, sporting a tribute scream to his grandmother. Says rest in peace, grandma, in loving memory. So great to have that on the hood of Christopher Bouchard's machine. Sorry for your loss there, Christopher. Hopefully you can have a good night here at Daytona. You can see cloud cover has now gone over the racetrack here in turn number 3 and 4. And look at those Surf Pro cars still hanging back in that second group, kind of now leading the second group, as this front group, Carlos, has gotten really racy, and we're pretty much side by side now, pretty much from the race lead all the way back, because here comes Ty Hester in the number 36 machine for the race lead. Yeah, it seems like Ty Hester just got tired of pushing Everett Bray and got a great partner right there with the 46 of Chris Stouffer, as it looks like these two vehicles might just be finding themselves up the front pretty quickly, as all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, we saw for the last couple laps, you saw the number 24, the number 27 battling on the outside and making some good runs on these vehicles. And with that checkup, it did kind of allow them to move up forward a little bit. Some of these drivers took note and started going up on the outside, as we now have a big pack, almost split 50-50. But that outside line, it appears to be faster, and not only faster, it also appears to be more tightly packed together than that inside line is. And how about that number 3 machine of James Lorello, currently being scored in the 12th position last time by. No front end on that number 3 machine. Remember, he was involved in that first accident. The only accident we've had so far, one caution in the first 20 laps here in the first Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series race of the 2020 season. And Lorello still holding tough. I'm very, very impressed with that machine. Lorello looked very, very fast in the early going. But after that incident, I really had my doubts on whether or not he was going to be able to keep with the pack. But he has answered that doubt, and he's now vying for a top 10 position here with all that damage. I can't believe it. In fact, he just moved into the top 10 in the 9th position in the number 3 machine. Yeah, when you're in the middle of that draft, it really does help you out, especially with this current package. As
It looks like the damage was, it wasn't exactly mechanical. If he does have some engine damage, it's not enough to actually hurt him at the moment, but he does not have that front end. Or it's also entirely possible he does have the front end and iRacing just kind of glitched on our end. But it can be a little bit unlikely considering that both of our iRacing season without a front end. So it's entirely possible that it could be that scenario, but I just think that draft is really helping him out. However, he cannot suck right back up to that vehicle in front of him, and if he does leave this or tries to lead a lap, he's going to find himself towards the back very, very quickly.
Yeah, got to give a shout out to everyone in the chat, currently 34 viewers. Make a comment, make yourself heard here on 3 Wide TV. We want to hear your inputs about this race as you see side-by-side action for the race lead. And Carlos, one thing I'm noticing is Michael Krobach and Brian Yazik, remember they made that charge up into the front group? Well, I think they thought it was getting a little bit too racy for their liking, and they have now dropped back to outside the top 10 and still losing a couple positions. There goes Andy Veltman in the 97 machine to his inside. And let's keep an eye on the other car that's around them. Of course, that would be the U.S. Air Force machine of Richard Fletcher. And Fletcher kind of said at the end of last season he didn't think he was going to be running the Premier Series, and he kind of wanted to run their development series, but he's here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series for this event here at Daytona in the number 43 machine right there behind Veltman. But that outside groove all of a sudden seems to have lost some momentum. But as I say that, here comes Craig Stykes in the Will Worthler Racing machine, kind of peeking his nose out in the 57 to maybe try and get an outside run. But up at the front, it is still Ty Hester. In second, it's Jared Haggerty. And Haggerty, remember, led a couple laps earlier. Just kind of riding right now, going below the yellow line just a little bit. But who's that in the third position? Well, that would be Christopher. And Carlos, with the advent of all the color mappings that they can now do, you know, they can now put a little bit of chrome on their race car, and that's what Christopher's got on that number 46 machine. If you get that thing in the right light, that thing absolutely glistens.
Yeah, you don't need any dynamic cube maps or whatever iRacing is doing that's going to cut half your frame rate. Just got to add some chrome on that baby, and it'll reflect right off. You need a shave? Look at that car. You got a perfect mirror right there as the 46 is finding himself in third place on the inside line as he was pushing number 36 earlier to the lead. Wasn't enough speed to actually clear both the vehicles. However, the 46 is settled nicely inside this inside line.
And Carlos, we see the 66 of Ed Bray. He's been shuffled up. No one helping him up there as we go on board with the number 66 machine here in turn number 1 and 2. He's been shuffled up, got no one to help him, and he's been slowly sliding back, losing positions. He's got the number 3 of James Lorello there on the left-hand side of your screen. Hello there, Mr. Lorello, and see if he can slide in behind him. He thinks better of it. I think the number 24 of Alan Young actually might have been trying to let him in there, but he's got a huge run here. That inside line, we mentioned it before. The inside line can really check out here and cause that type of a run. Sometimes you just get such a big run, you want to jump out, and if no one goes with you, it can work to your disadvantage. But for right now, the 66 of Edward Bray in the 7th position. Gotta say hello to another couple people in the chat. We got B. Lee saying just hanging out at the shop, getting the 14 car ready for the next show, wishing he was running with the rest of the teams tonight. And Charles B saying go Johnny B. So cool to have you in the chat. I'm guessing that would be John Broussard in the number 53 machine, Johnny B. Not 100% sure of that, but I will assume so since that is John in the field here tonight. What's up, Carlos?
Hey, Mahoney PI, thank you so much for subscribing. Yes, I get these notifications on my inbox, so thank you so much for subscribing, and we hope you enjoyed today's content, today's race, as we got a whole season, 11 months worth of racing coming up.
Yeah, and of course there are very, very few, if not any, leagues as good as the American Sim Racing Series. I mean, it is a premier series for a reason. A lot of these drivers in tonight's race who are making their first American Sim Racing Series Premier Series debut, they had an off season where they go out and they actually do races that are tryout races. And the admins do not approve certain drivers to race in the Premier Series based off of how they race in those tryout races. So that is why we get such a good. That's what. Well, I'm sorry, Carlos, but you don't need to be approved because you're up here in the booth. I mean, it's kind of questionable whether or not you're approved to be in the booth. I'm just saying, but
I'm barely approved to be in the booth.
You're up here in the booth. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I am too. But nonetheless, they put on a spectacular show because there is that rigorous tryout process, and these drivers do have to get approved to be a Premier Series driver, of course, not only representing their sponsors, but also Hacksaw PCs kind of as a whole. So great to see them on board for this season. In fact, I was looking at the schedule a little while ago, Carlos. It's a long schedule. I mean, you go all the way until November 18th, which is the All-Star race at Las Vegas. You got the championship finale, which is actually 2 weeks prior to that, the American Regardless Championship finale at ISM Raceway out in the desert. But this time next week we'll go to Vegas, and then a week after that they go to Auto Club. And then ISM in March, Atlanta in March, Homestead in March, and then rounding out March at Texas Motor Speedway. So a lot of races happening thick and fast here on 3Wide TV for the American Sim Racing Series Premier Cup Series. It's for all these drivers, man. It is a time commitment. You have to think about how much time they put into this each and every week, but practicing and performing on the racetrack in these races. They're not short races. Next week, 200 miles at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, 200 miles the week after that at Auto Club Speedway. So some fairly lengthy races here coming up. And we got, of course, the 250-mile Glass Door Brewing race here tonight. Got to give a shout out to them. I am a big beer drinker myself, love myself some brews. And to have Glass Door Brewing on board for this event, very, very cool. Go check them out online right now. In fact, I don't even care if you paid your way from the 3Wide TV broadcast for a brief moment. Go check them out as we have a battle for the race lead here as I'm talking about that. Look at Brandon Stokes to the number 9 machine there trying to push Edward Bray to the race lead. I've seen that number 9 of Stokes there, Carlos. He's been trying to use that high line to his advantage, and now he's used it and gotten up into the second position. Also, we got the number 95 machine, Danny Rogers, running the iRacing paint scheme on that car. He's running the third car in line on the top side. He started tail end of the longest line when we went back to green flag racing here not too long ago with our one and only caution flag that we've had tonight in the first 31 laps. But Carlos, we have a couple of drivers yet to stop, and really the pit window here at Daytona is about 33 laps if it stays green. We had a couple of caution laps in there, so I'm expecting cars on pit road here in about 4 to 5 laps.
It'll be very interesting for sure. So you have to not only maintain your track position and not make any mistakes on the track, you also have to avoid making mistakes in pit road. That's going to be more often than not, if you don't get involved in an accident, that will be the biggest mistake you can make, and it's the one that usually knocks you out of contention for winning. As I've made that mistake maybe once or twice, maybe more than that in my racing career or in my racing history. But if you can avoid making mistakes, whether that's entering pit road, entering your stall, or exiting pit road and merging back in the track, you have to minimize those mistakes. And the winner, if I think we have somebody going down pit road. I wasn't able to get a look. No, I guess I was wrong. I apologize. No, I lied to you.
Oh no. Yeah, you were right the first time, Carlos. We got Pete Baskins, Brian Yazik, and Michael Krobach, Jay Crable, Troy Haight, all coming down pit road right now. So that's about 6 cars. Surprisingly enough, these are all drivers who I believe who have previously come down pit road. We still have Ed Bray, Ty Hester, Jared Haggerty, Chris Stouffer, Michael Whiting, and Kelsey Rogers yet to pit at all in this race, but all of the cars that did come down pit road are taking at least their second pit stop, if not their third, here in the early running here in the Glass Door Brewing 250. We'll see if any more cars file down onto pit road this time by. Does not look like it. And now those cars that are coming off pit road after just pitting, they're going fairly slow, and this field going at upwards of 190 miles an hour, catching them very, very quickly.
Yeah, there's the field right now on board the number 55 of Brian Yazik. As they're merging on the track, we'll see what line they're going to hold. If they hold the inside line, it might be risky for these lead lap drivers, as they're going to be holding on to that inside line, as I'm a little bit scared as to what could happen if these drivers know what's going on. Oh, that's very risky, as you see how the field's kind of breaking up, as they don't know where these slap-down vehicles are going to go, and thankfully there wasn't a caution there, as usually choosing between the inside and the low line, when you're about to go one lap down, you have the ability to use the low line, especially if you have a clean car. But if you're more than one lap down, never choose the low line. Always go on the outside line. There's a checkup on the outside line, very, very unique there. As one last thing, you never want to split the lanes. If you're merging with other vehicles and you see somebody's on the high line, don't go to the low line. That's just a recipe for a wreck.
Yeah, Brian Yazik and Danny Rogers actually both receiving a little bit of damage from that checkup. Yazik's rear end is crinkled in a little bit, and Danny Rogers now seeing a little bit of right front damage. And Rogers decided to jump into the low line, get rid of those highliners right there.
Oh!
The 20. Oh, we got more cars. Oh, no. Looked like a couple of cars thought about coming to pit road, realized it was a little bit too late for them to make that move.
I think
or
the
was
22.
There a little bit of contact, Carlos?
I think there was some contact with the 22 to kind of. It didn't get him spun out or close to spinning out. It just got him a little loose, and he had to go below the yellow line to get that sorted out. As that was very close. However, what that has done is that's opened up to over a 0.7 of a second lead for these top 5 vehicles, as they're now running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, so Carlos, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, we know that in a lap or two, we're going to have to see a couple cars on pit road because they are running out of fuel. Oh, here we go. Here comes the big group of cars onto pit road trying to get things woed up. The 66 of Ed Bray is going to lead them down onto pit road. Looks like we got Stouffer on pit road as well. The number 3 machine of Lorello, the 22 of Whiting, the 17 of Stallings, and Kelsey Rogers. So this is a lot of those drivers who had yet to pit in this race. Now we got drivers out there on the racetrack, except for Ty Hester and Jared Haggerty, who are still turning laps. They have yet to pit, but beyond that, everyone else has made it out there onto pit road. Looks like we're getting words that perhaps there might be a black flag being shown from one of the drivers. Not 100% sure what that's all about, but yeah, the number 34 machine of Greg Evans, he seems to have received a black flag, not 100% sure why. Maybe that's for sitting in his pit box for too long.
Oh, but yes, that's right. New to this year is their version of the crash clock. Is Peter, why don't you go ahead and talk for me just a little bit as I try to go ahead and pull up the rules on that.
Yeah, new rules, new season, new things here in the 2020 Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. But let's see if the race leaders come down pit road this time by getting...
Oh, wrecking behind!
Hester and Jared Haggerty. Oh no, that's the number 95 machine. The 11 involved as well. Oh,
no caution.
51. No caution. Can you believe this? This will have to be an admin caution, I would think. But your series champion, Mitch Brown, involved in this one as well. Looks like the 95 of Danny Rogers there in the middle of the corner. Ooh, the number 11 of Seville getting involved. Look at some of the Surf Pro drivers trying to snake their way through it. And the 53 and the 51 having to come in together a little bit further back.
Oh, it looks like the 95 had some connection issues because we were not able to get... There we go. Yeah, it looks like he had some connection issues. Something went on and he started spinning out. These one of the Surf Pro vehicles has heavy damage against the 51. Let's see if we can pull up on that replay. As pardon me, as we're trying to figure out what's causing all these issues here.
Yeah, Carlos, you're right. The
admin thrown caution was thrown.
Okay, so we are now under caution, the second caution of the night. But let's watch the 51 machine. He backs it down, and ooh, looks like the 53 machine might have gotten the brakes a little bit too much. Lost the rear end and just turned up into the 51 machine, and that's a tough break for your series champion, the 51 of Mitch Brown. Danny Rogers is also being shown a black flag here, and I think that will probably be, Carlos, for the fact that he had connection issues, which led to the accident, which has brought out the second of the 2 cautions that we've had here so far. David Washington in one of the Surf Pro cars on pit road right now. There's a lot of cars. Eric Stanford, winner of one of the Kirkwood duels last week here, with a significant amount of damage in the Glass Door Brewing 250. So, man, there was not much anyone could really do about that, because unfortunately for drivers like Jason Stewart, it was a car that had a little bit of connection issues leading to that collision. But this is all of a sudden, Carlos, sorry to cut you off.
That's
this
okay.
is kind of given a interesting situation. We had a good number of drivers who had come down pit road and already pitted, and so now they're trapped one lap down. Drivers like Michael Krobach, Brian Yazik, Pete Baskins, Troy Haight, Jay Crable, those drivers one lap down, and if the rest of the field doesn't pit here, they won't be able to get the wave around.
That's true, as hopefully with that caution that came out, I was able to lower some of my iRacing resources, so hopefully that should make it a little bit easier on your guys. Only time will tell. Interesting caution. It seems like the officials, which, by the way, this is the first time these 3 guys are officiating together now that Jim Foose and Sam Maxwell have decided to call it a career here at ASRS and taken their talents to full-time officiating. It seems like I'm not going to say confusion, or I'm not going to say miscommunication, just because I don't know what's going on. Maybe there were other factors. It's also entirely possible somebody else wrecked while we were going on replay. Peter, I don't know if you can verify exactly what the caution was for, but if the caution was for that wreck that we are witnessing, it seems like a little bit of a long delay for the caution to come out, although I do think that bringing out the caution is the right call.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, that was a huge accident, and the admin thrown caution does allow the rest of the field that were involved in that or had to slow up in that accident to join back up with the lead pack. So it's good from multiple perspectives. It's good from a racing perspective, and also to help out a couple of those drivers. And man, it was going to be very interesting to see how spread out the field would be after that, because that number 95 machine was up near the front of the field, and unfortunately for the number 95 of Danny Rogers, his night goes no further. He has been shown the black flag and has retired from the event. There's a number 34 machine in the center of your screen, driven by Kelsey Rogers. Haven't talked too much about Kelsey Rogers, but he was always up near the front last year in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. And I'm sure he's hoping to get to victory lane here tonight. There's Tyler Seville and the number 11 machine, Will Warsaw Racing, Porcupines and Slice Pizza Bar on that race car. He's leaving his pit stall. He was involved in that accident. Got a good chunk of damage on that race car, and that's why he keeps coming on pit road to get a little bit more fixed. But currently, it looks like your race leader, Carlos, is currently going to be Kelsey Rogers in that number 34 machine. So Kelsey getting to the front here. Quite a few cars in front of him will take the wave around. Looks like that includes Jay Crable, Troy Haight, Pete Baskins, Brian Yazik, Michael Krobach, Michael Whiting, and Richard Stalling. So 22nd through, I believe, 28th will be getting a lap back here due to that wave around procedure, because they were already one lap down and had already pitted when that caution flag flew. But I was kind of bummed here, Carlos, because we were probably about 2 or 3 laps away from getting the rest of the field on pit road for their green flag pit stops when that melee ensued. And that would have been fun to see, all those cars just jumping onto pit road from 190 miles an hour down to the pit road speed limit. I believe it's 65 here at Daytona. It's always fun to watch, because I'll tell you what, it's one of the most difficult things to do here at Daytona.
That's true, as something we should probably go over is I can't quite remember where I can find the information. Is I believe they have 10 minutes of they have 10 minutes of a crash repair damage, and if you exceed that time, then you're out of the race, no matter what position you're in. Also, new to this season is tire limits on the Premier Series. Now, this was such a huge success for the development series last season that they decided to bring it over to the Premier Series. Now, it will vary from track to track, but for Daytona, they have 3 sets of tires for the whole race. That includes the 1 set that you start the race with and 2 additional sets that you can switch over during qualifying. That being said, if a driver goes down pit road to take, let's say, right side tires, and they come down pit road another time to take left side tires, that will be treated as 2 sets of tires, regardless that you only took just rights or lefts. So drivers have to be careful. If they're gonna take two tires, they gotta figure out. They gotta make sure if it's the right call. As for Daytona, you can only change your tires twice. You have 3 sets of tires for this week. As hopefully, if there's another quick caution, we'll see if we can talk to a driver or two. As we're about to go back to green, Peter.
Yeah, pace car lights are off, which is very, very good to see. Getting word that Jason Stewart has been given an EOL penalty in the number 1 machine. Not quite sure what that's about, but he did have a significant amount of damage from being involved in that accident. So he's currently missing a back bumper, and we've already seen the number 3 machine, James Lorello. He's been able to keep pace with a fairly damaged race car. He hasn't really been able to lead with that number 3 machine, but he's definitely been able to suck up to the lead pack very well. So, some of these cars already receiving some damage. It might not be the end of the world. We'll have to wait and see. You might not win this race, but who knows? We had that NASCAR race this past weekend where a car with a completely crumpled in front end won and went to victory lane. So only time will tell who will walk away with the Glass Door Brewing 250 trophy. And for right now, Kelsey Rogers is leading the way. The 36 of Ty Hester to his outside, the 6 of Haggerty restarting in 3rd. And Carlos, remember, they were on pit road when the caution flag came out, so they were able to stay on the lead lap in the 36 and the 6, and now they're 2nd and 3rd. But the green flag is flying once again. This is the 3rd green flag we have seen here today, and it is that number 34 machine getting a pretty good restart. We'll have to wait and see whether or not it's too good of a restart, because you can get too big of a lead and have the whole field suck up to you. But he's done a good job of kind of laying up just a little bit and allowing that number 6 to catch up to him fast enough that it won't give them an advantage. Let's see if we can keep an eye on the number 9 of Brandon Stokes. He likes going to the high side, but as I say that, here comes the 6 of Haggerty, side by side for the race lead.
Yeah, side by side. This was, I think, a move just on the 6. Thought he had a run, but the momentum's going back down a little. These 2 cars on the outside, they do have some help a little bit back, but a 36 was in pretty much attempting to tandem draft all this race, and it's been working out as and that outside momentum with just these 2 vehicles and some slight help appear to be matching and getting in faster than those vehicles on the inside. And I don't know, it could be one of those cases, especially as the tires wear on, where maybe that outside line might just be the place to go, and you're going to find these vehicles drafting around on the outside line like you do see in real life. As not only have we seen in real life where the vehicles are very hard to drive and it gets very, very slick. We saw that yesterday with the San Paulo Racing League. The tires got slick and difficult to drive on, and the tires wear out. It can be very difficult to hold your line in the bottom, maybe even hold your line trying to move lanes to block.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the field right now. The field's starting to get a little bit stratified. Of course, a lot of these cars having various levels of damage, and that is what is causing this field to break up quite a bit. But we do have about 8 or 9 cars in this lead group. At the back of the lead group is James Lorello in the number 3 machine. You can see him still missing that front end, but still nice and racy. And then just inside the top 10, the number 29 machine of Will Warsler with the Slice Pizza Bar on the hood. He's finally starting to make some noise. I know we got Nikki Warsler making plenty of noise in the chat here. Got to give a shout out to Cody Spiker as well, rooting on the number 34 of Kelsey Rogers. Currently, Kelsey leading the way here as we close in on the halfway mark in the Glass Door Brewing 250.
Yeah, not much left before we go halfway. Just about 2 laps to go as these drivers are still going side by side throughout the high banks of Daytona. And, well, they do appear to be a little bit more calm, even though they are side by side compared to how this race was. But all that needs to be done to have that gigantic wreck is just one small mistake. And we've been seeing some of these drivers get very close to making that mistake.
Yeah, now one thing I'm noticing, Carlos, is that there is a very strong second group of cars, but they are way back from this lead group. This lead group is at the start-finish line now, and we got some cars just coming out of turn number 4, like Brian Yazek, Michael Krobach, Pete Baskins, Troy Haight. Those cars are not damaged. There they are on the center of your screen. No damage on some of those cars, but they're just miles off your race leader, and that just has to be due to the fact that we have some very damaged race cars out there. Had to slow them up on the restart, and now they're finally up to race speed, but pretty much almost a quarter of a lap down at this present moment in time.
Yeah, I don't think that's, you're not in a bad position there. The only way it could be bad is if the race goes green till the end and you just get separated too much. But with the way these cars are driving up front and how single file they're driving in the back, I think they'll be fine. They'll probably catch up. And then some of them will have to make the decision of, do we want to catch up all the way, or do we want to have like maybe a 5-second gap that you know you can catch back up fully with like 10 or 5 to go? As I don't know, the way some of these cautions have been coming out, it might be a smart idea to just hang it in the back 16 seconds far back.
We have had a change of the race lead. Brandon Stokes, with a little bit of help from Jared Haggerty, was able to be pushed to the 34. Kelsey Rogers really loose on entry into turn number 3. Fantastic save. That's going to break up that inside groove, give the advantage to the outside line of Jared Haggerty and Ty Hester. And Haggerty's going to go back up to the point here. But my, oh my, what a save out of that number 34 machine there on entry to number 3.
Yeah, what a fantastic job by the 34. It's possible there may have been some net code because 34 got loose, and then we saw the back end of the 9, I believe it was, got crinkled up. Like I said, they made contact, but they weren't even close at all. And of course, the rear end of the number 9 got fixed up within a second. So if you were paying attention, you would have seen it, or if you were looking at that, you would have seen it. Pardon me, as I don't know. Some of the server has been a little bit unstable these last couple of days. We've been seeing complaints to iRacing about large amount of netcodes. We saw some of them last night. We saw some of them the week before. So these drivers, they do got to be careful with how close they do race, and if they race close enough, there may not be any help for them.
I'll tell you what, though, Carlos. Last week in the Kirkwood duels, we saw one driver, I can't remember who it was now, but it was one of the drivers who was actually in on time into this race. They just lost it on entry, I think, into turn number 1. Said that the race car got loose. It's very light there. Just had too much wheel in it, and it broke free from them. And that's kind of looks like what happened to Kelsey Rogers, although that number 34 was able to save it. So maybe very, very tricky out there on entry into these corners. Kind of somewhat surprising that that's the case. Usually these cars are very planted to the ground, that huge rear spoiler. But we saw it twice, I believe, last week in the duels.
That is what I like to call getting behind on the steering. I usually find me having that issue on the start, on the tri-oval section of Talladega. But it's also entirely possible to get behind on your steering entering the corner, especially when you can't see the vehicle in front of you and you have to kind of make an educated guess as to when would be the correct time to turn in the car. As it's also, I think he may have gone behind on the steering, because if you're not right up there, you turn a little too late, a little too hard, because you think you've missed the corner, and that back end will come around no matter how gigantic these rear spoilers are.
I'm keeping an eye on lap times right now. We got this lead pack running 47.1 as Ed Bray has been pushed to the front by Christopher Bouchard. This front pack running 47 1s, 47 2s, 47 3s. We got a big single file line of cars, and they're running about a tenth or so of a lap, or of a second per lap faster. And that is going to be a struggle to catch the lead pack, but the good news is they're not losing any rounds, so if a caution does come out, that pack will be able to get back up. It also shows that that group has some pace, which is good news. There you see one of the Serve Pro cars. That's Washington in that machine. Unfortunately, David Washington has quite a bit of damage, and he has not been able to keep up with the pack since we went back to Green Flag Racing in the 89. There you see the number 81, that's Shane Parrish going by, and out of all those Serve Pro cars, Shane Parrish is the only one still left without any significant damage, still turning some laps. Eric Stanford in the 85 Serve Pro machine, he is running in the 18th position in the second gaggle of cars, but look at this, here comes the number 50 machine, and I'll tell you what, Christopher, you got your grandmother on the hood, and she is out front here at the Daytona International Speedway in the Glass Door Brewing 250 with only 45 laps to go at the line. But here comes that outside groove once again, the 66 of Edward Bray, with a little bit of help from behind with the number 9 machine of Brandon Stokes. And Carlos, I have seen Stokes up there on the high groove quite a bit here in this race. He looks like a spectacular pusher. He's going to be one of those drivers you're going to want behind you in the closing laps. Yes,
that's a good take. Yes, another driver I would like to have behind my back would be Edward Bray. He's been known to be a fantastic pusher. Same thing with the 36 of Ty Hester. He's also been doing a fantastic job just doing what he does and pushing drivers to the lead. So those would be two good drivers, as maybe the 9, not a little committed there, wanted to get on the outside, maybe cash in some of that fast outside line driving.
Yeah, Stokes been very, very strong on that outside groove. He moves up in front of the 50 of Christopher Bouchard. Bouchard now going to try and push that number 9 back up to the front. And how about John Jenkins in the number 7 machine? He did get the lucky dog, and now in the top 10, and now inside the top 5 as they run out there. Great run for John Jenkins, good recovery, and a great looking race car. I gotta say, that number 7, that purple machine just absolutely pops, as you can see the very shiny reflections on that hood. A little bit of a crinkled front end, needs a little color. Yeah, that's what it's kind of got to it, Carlos. It's got that it's like a color chrome type thing, and I'd say it's very, very clean looking race car, except for that little bit of damage that he's got, but maybe a little bit of super clean after the race will help the tough task. But inside the top 5 for the first time here today is John Jenkins. Very impressive. Kind of reminds me of James Lorello in the number 3 machine. Also lots of damage, but running very, very good inside the top 10. Richard Fletcher is actually the 10th place driver right now. He's in that white and blue number 43, just behind Lorello. Right there on the right side of your screen. Good run for him. And then right outside of your screen is the number 29 of Will Worsler, just kind of laying back a little bit because he sees this side-by-side action up at the front for the race lead. And here comes Ed Bray once again. Bray will take the 66 to the front. Carlos, they're kind of just swapping back and forth up at the front, which is very good to see that this racetrack is very, very racy.
Yeah, it's very racing indeed. It's very racy indeed, as these drivers, they're pushing a little bit further than what I would like with, granted, we are less past halfway here, but it's just something of, it's still plenty of laps left, and one mistake, it could knock out a bunch of these drivers, and all these drivers all the way in the back, they may get their wish if the drivers up front get knocked out.
Got to give a shout out in the chat to Grant Brown. Says, hello from all of us at Patriot Media and Marketing Services. Of course, Patriot Media and Marketing Services, one of the partners of the American Sim Racing Series, Premier Cup Series. So very, very cool to have Patriot on board this year. Go check them out. And You can see down in the bottom of the description here the league sponsors. So click on that, go check them out, and of course go check out Hacksaw PC's website. Also the link in the description here on YouTube. But as of right now, that number 72 HPP simulations machine, Michael Krobach, leading now a much larger second pack. But unfortunately, they're not making any ground on this lead pack anymore. They were a little while ago, but that has kind of been stopped. And now that lead pack starting to pull away just a little bit. But I think that's because
maybe
the
not
lead
again.
pack... I think that lead pack's, well, beyond the first 3 rows, got a little bit more single file now. But up at the front, the number 50 machine. Here we go. 3 wide for the race lead. Here comes Ty Hester on the high side with help by the number 6 machine. 3 wide on 3 wide TV. Don't you just love to see it here in turn number 3? Oh, wow. Look at Ty Hester just dumps the number 6 of Haggerty up there on the high groove. Now, what's the 50 going to do? Bouchard's going to jump down to the low groove. I'm sure the number 6 of Haggerty's not all too happy with that move that Ty Hester just made. Just left him hanging out there high and dry, and now he's fallen back now in the clutches of the number 9 machine of Brandon Stokes.
Edward Bray is seriously considering moving up to that outside line there, leaving plenty of space on the inside. I don't know if he's actually fully considering going up on the outside line or if he's just trying to bait Ty Hester to moving up and blocking and then just shoving his car all the way to the inside. Now, that's a risky move because let me tell you what, I've lost the race doing that. I was second place on the last lap, went up high to pass the car on the outside. That vehicle went high to block and I just turned it down to get to the inside line and I just turned myself around exiting the corner. So it's a fine line you got to play. And that was back when the cars were more planted to the ground and it was easier to drive around in these racetracks. As with the heat getting up, it's getting a little bit hard to do that. Pardon me, the heat of the tires. Talking about the actual heat of the racetrack though, for Florida, it's average. About 73 degrees track temperature, 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Air temperature 73, 82 degrees track temp. As a matter of fact, it's probably a little cold for Florida, but Peter, I don't know, what are you seeing right now?
Well, it seems like all of a sudden the racetrack's gone a little bit quiet. Pretty much single file in the first main pack. The only one driver to stand out from that is the number 6 from Haggerty, but now he's going to jump down to the inside. And for right now, it looks like this lead group is kind of content with letting Ty Hester in the 36 machine lead the way as Jason Eisenhower, the number 37 machine, going to go down another lap. He was involved in the first accident here today, and he's now going to be 4 laps down in the number 37. So not the night he was looking for. Had a very good duel last week, but not going to be able to back it up with a strong finish unless there's some carnage that happens here in the closing 37 laps. Under 100 miles to go here. There's the second group of cars that I've been mentioning, led by Krobach and Brian Yazik, Pete Baskins, Troy Haight, Jay Cradle in that group, Richard Stallings in that group, Michael Whiting. Remember, Whiting led a decent number of laps in the early going of this race. They just can't seem to close in on that lead group. In fact, they are 10 seconds off the race leader right now, the 36 of Ty Hester. There's the number 11. We saw him briefly. He's the last car on the lead lap. That's Tyler Seville, the Slice Perky Pints machine, Will Wurzler Racing. He's not too far from going 1 lap down. As you can see, he's in the same camera on the racetrack. So just pan that camera around, you find the rest of the field. So Seville right now at the start-finish line, roughly 10 seconds away from going 1 lap down. But the good news for him is there's only one other car 1 lap down, and that's John Broussard in the 29th position in the 53 machine. So even if caution came out for Tyler Seville, I think he'd be able to get that lap back through the lucky dog. Mitch Brown also really struggling. Remember, he was involved in the accident that we had now about 20 laps ago, over 20 laps ago now, Carlos. We are probably need to start thinking about green flag pit stops. We're about 12 laps away in what will be the final pit stop of the night, presumably.
Yeah, it's going to be risky. This is one of those definite don't make a mistake pit stops. early on in the race, you don't want to do it, but you might be able to get away with it. We've had cautions, so anybody that made a mistake in those first or second pit stops, they're fine, unless they got involved in an accident later on. But right now, the way these guys are going, there probably won't be a caution. So if there is a caution, it probably won't happen until the last couple of laps when they start going side by side and actually trying to take the lead. Yeah, you make a mistake now and a caution doesn't come out, because Daytona has been known to have clean racing. If a caution doesn't come out, your race is done. If you're the number 7, if you're the number 50, the number 66 and 36, you make a mistake, you're out of this race if a caution doesn't come out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the final green flag pit stop is always a make or break opportunity here on the high banks, especially if the race goes caution free. Like you said, Carlos, sometimes if caution comes out, you're able to get back in it, but a poor pit stop can definitely thwart your opportunities to get a good finish. Here is the leaders starting to go by some other lapped cars. Actually, excuse me, that's the second pack as they flash by here on the front stretch, going by some lapped cars. Jason Stewart in the one machine. However, there he is on the right side of your screen, not able to overcome that damage on that race car. He's currently scored 12 markers off the race lead in the 32nd position. But yeah, things going quiet up the front, Carlos. Ty Hester just kind of leading the big train around this joint. Wonder if it's just got too slick up on the high side and everyone's decided to let it cool off a little bit and see if they can make a run for it here in just a few laps. But Edward Bray, man, I just keep watching that 66 machine. It looks like he just has an itch to jump to that high side, but I think he's too afraid to do it right now because he sees all those cars behind him all lined up.
Yeah, and they're all lined up. Honestly, 32 laps to go. I don't know who's going to go out there and help you, but you know, it's not the end of the world if you actually do move up and try to maybe pass the driver. But I just don't think it's going to happen.
Carlos,
what's up?
Sorry to jump in, but we got cars on pit road. Michael Krobach, Brian Yazik, Jay Crable, Pete Baskins, Troy Haight. Remember, they had to take the wave around under that last caution because of how that caution came out. So they were due for a pit stop. So this is a scheduled pit stop for the 55, 27, the 72, the 87, and the 28 of Haight. And unfortunately, they're not together on the racetrack. They need to kind of get together, line up with one another to minimize any bleeding. But that group of cars will now fall one lap down. And this is the same position they were in when the last caution came out. And they had to take the wave around. But good news is they should be able to make it on fuel from this point for the remainder of the Glass Door Brewing 250s. Of course, that does kind of have an asterisk, because if there's green-white checkered, it could be a bit of a squeeze for them. But here's this second group of cars, a few cars shorter now, with a couple of those cars headed down pit road a lap or two ago, but still unable to make any inroads on the race lead. In fact, this group now 17 seconds off the race lead. They were only about 10 seconds off the race lead about 10 laps ago or so. So this group now losing a significant chunk of time to Ty Hester's group. There is that group of cars. Your race leader in the 36 machine, he wants to be out front leading this thing, as we now have 29 laps to go in the Glass Door Brewing 250 here in the first of the season. So first race of the season, I should say. Yes, Carlos?
So those drivers that went down pit road, Michael Krobach, Jay Crable, a couple other drivers, well, they're a little bit together now, but they spent a lap or 2 laps separated from each other. Of course, they're back together now, so it's good for them, but they've lost just so much time. It's only 4 vehicles, a 5th one, if that 5th driver can get on in this group. If a caution doesn't come out, I have no way, I cannot picture these guys getting anywhere near close. As a matter of fact, I probably see them being 3/4 of a lap, 3/4 of a lap behind the leaders, and these guys need a caution. Something went wrong in their pit stop. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at it, they took 4 tires, so this was obviously planned. because all of them took 4 tires, but I just don't think it's enough drivers, and I think they were already too far back for a 4-tire strategy to work. That being said, if a caution does come out, they might get a couple positions because some of those that are not in the lead might go back and take some tires. But Peter, they need a caution right now.
Yeah, they really need this race to go green until all these leaders come down pit road, which should be fairly shortly. But then they'll need that caution to come out after that happens to kind of get the field reset and get back up there near the front, as we're now down to 27 laps to go. The good news for Brian Yazik is he's actually in the first car 1 lap down, so if a caution did come out, he would be able to get back on the lead lap regardless of how anything happens. But we will see when these leaders decide to come down pit road here very, very shortly. I am sure it has been 33 laps this time by since they were last on pit road, but remember there were a few caution laps in there that will help them extend that 33 lap window. But here we go on pit road, the race leader, the 36 machine of Ty Hester, Ed Bray on pit road. Look at that 4 wide getting to the pit boxes, and those drivers better sort things out because, Carlos, you can make contact on pit road. Here comes Ty Hester. Don't slide through your pit box. You see Hester taking it really easy getting into his box as to not overshoot it. That's fairly wise out of him. He's taking tires. Looks like a couple of these drivers taking just right sides perhaps, so they don't have the full penalty of taking 4 tires. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Here comes the 34 machine taking a lot of pit stalls there. And that is the 34 of Kelsey Rogers, who looks like he's going to be the first car off pit road. But an interesting group of strategy on pit road. We got more cars headed to pit lane right now. Brandon Stokes, the 50 of Christopher Bouchard on pit road. John Jenkins, Richard Fletcher, and all those cars coming into his pit box. Oh, Richard Fletcher overshot his pit box in the 43. That's going to hurt him significantly. He finally is able to back it up just in time to get the crew to work. But that is going to very hurt him.
I think something's up with Will Horsler. Exiting pit road, he was actually pretty good with the drivers, but all of a sudden, he just started letting drivers go by, and he's lost the draft. And something screams to me like either something's wrong with the car, or maybe he sped exiting pit road, Peter. I don't know if you can take a look at that. But he was up there with the group, he's going back down pit road. I think he sped either entering or exiting pit road because he just started letting these guys go by, and that is not what you wanted to see if you're a Will Horsler fan. Nikki, cover your eyes.
Yeah, I'm watching Will Horsler, his run on pit road. Everything looked nice and smooth, got in his pit box nice and neatly. Just, Carlos, it doesn't look like he took enough fuel. He was only in his pit box for a split second. Looking at the time for that number 29 machine on pit road, it was only... it was a very short stop. Of course, now the time has changed because he's on pit road once again. But, man, he was only in his pit box for just a split second. So I wonder if he hadn't selected enough fuel to get to the end and knew he was going to have come back down pit road. Or maybe he's having some technical issues. There he goes, finally leaving his pit box. But that's a very long pit stop. We'll have to see if we can follow up with that one. But that might take Will Horsler out of contention here tonight for getting the Glass Door Brewing 250 victory.
Yeah, it's very unique. I'm not quite sure. Peter, you got yourself a fan in the chat. You might want to check that out. But I'm not quite sure what happened to Will. We'll see if we can talk to him either if a caution comes out or maybe after the race as a surprise interview. But
we're getting word from Nikki. Penalty.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Called it.
There you see that number 29 now. He's going to be well down the running order.
28.
So that is very unfortunate. Yep, speeding, according to Nikki. My, oh my. Tough break for Will Horsler. It's going to be one to forget unless he can get back in the lead group. Speaking of the lead group, yep, they're coming down pit road, led by the number 41 machine of Tim Knott. I don't think we've mentioned Tim Knott's name tonight. Been kind of a quiet night from driver of the number 41 machine, but he is in his pit box right now, leading that group down. Kirkwood Transportation on the hood. And a couple of other drivers, your series champion, the 51 of Mitch Brown in his pit box, Clarence Bonner in his pit box. I think they've been waiting for the caution, just nothing yet to come out for them to get back to the lead pack.
And some of these drivers, we saw them undershoot their stall and have to hit the gas to get themselves back in position. I've done that many times because in Daytona, Talladega, and a couple really big racetracks where the brakes aren't as important, you have to like slow down maybe 2.5 to 1.5 stalls before your actual stall. Otherwise, you'll easily overshoot it. And I've overshot it countless times. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've overshot it. But in other tracks, one stop before you can turn in, hit the brakes, and you're good to go. But Daytona, Talladega, you cannot do that. Every time I race some of these tracks, I always have a sticky note where I write 2 stalls, and that means I always have to slow down and hit the brakes 2 stalls before my actual stall. And more often than not, it leads to under driving your stall, and you would have to hit the gas. But that's a lot better than overshooting it and hitting the back. Another thing I personally do is, as I'm entering my stall, I hit the clutch and I put it on neutral, and then I hold the clutch while I hit the brakes and actually stop. If I overshoot it, boom, I'm in reverse, mash the gas, go behind, and then hit the brakes and the clutch at the same time, because now you can also stall your engine. But you have to be careful in these races, as pit road is going to be a difficult place, not just in Daytona, but in pretty much every track here. As Peter, we got a lot of on-track racing going on right now.
Yeah, this lead pack has found themselves together once again. They're putting the number 22 machine down. Ooh, a little bit squirrely there from the number 9 of Brandon Stokes, but they were putting the 22 machine of Michael Whiting a lap down. I know after what was a very promising start to this race from that number 22 machine, that's not what he wanted to have happen, as almost contact between Whiting and Stykes back there at the backside of this pack. But we're 2 by 2 now, about 10 cars deep. The 10th place car is Craig Stykes in the 57, side by side with the 22 right there at the bottom of your screen. But look at this gaggle of cars, and look at Christopher in the 46 machine going for the race lead. Good to see him once again challenging. He challenged for the race lead earlier, and Brandon Stokes right behind him. And Carlos, I've been highlighting just how good of a pusher Brandon Stokes has been here tonight. They don't have many other cars up there on the high side, but let's see if that number 9 can push the 46 to the front here on the backstretch.
That's right, yeah, this racing's starting to pick up with less than 20 laps to go, but I want to go ahead and take a quick moment to congratulate Keegan Leahy, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, for winning the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. As a broadcaster, I always want to give shout outs to other broadcasters, and while these guys don't need broadcasters, and this league doesn't need, while this league doesn't need
Carlos,
any promotion, congratulations to them. As Peter, what's going on over there?
Man, oh man, I almost saw a little bit of contact there between your 2nd and 3rd place cars. The 36 of Ty Hester, it looked like Jared Haggerty was going to fill a hole coming out of turn number 4, and the 36 of Ty Hester just kind of cut down, because Hester, I think, wanted to do what he's doing right now, and that's go to the outside of the number 34 machine. And all of a sudden, once again, Ty Hester going for the race lead. He's led the most laps here in this event. And once again, back out front here with only 18 laps to go, 17 laps this time by in the Glass Door Brewing 250.
Did you see that the 36 got clear? The 6 wanted to get clear as well, but the number 34 of Kelsey Rogers was having none of that. He kept it in there as the 6 of Jared Haggerty tried to slowly move himself into the inside lane, realized it was going to be a futile attempt, an attempt that would have resulted in a wreck, and backed off. So a smart move by the number 6 of Haggerty, as he's starting to lose some position, as they're starting to jumble up once again. As I gotta say, the winner is probably going to be somebody that comes from that outside line.
Yeah, the outside line has definitely looked strong today, which is always great to see when you come to a super speedway. I know one of my biggest fears as a race car driver is it being a low line fest, all the drivers being down there on the inside groove and no one being able to pass. Well, this race has been anything but that. That outside line been very, very strong. Here comes the number 6 of Haggerty trying to make that high line once again fire up. Here comes Ed Bray in the 66. He's thinking about using that high line, getting really close to the back end of Kelsey Rogers in the 34 as they work their way through turn number 1 and 2. But here comes Chris Stouffer in the 46. He's just going to stoof the number 46 machine down there on the inside groove. Okay, that didn't quite work the way I wanted it to, but you know, stuffs it down there on the inside of that number 66 of Edward Bray, and Chris Stouffer now in the 3rd position. And Edward Bray now he's teaming up with the number 6 of Haggerty on that outside groove. Brandon Stokes has been shuffled back a little bit to around the 7th positions. This chess match continues at 190 plus miles an hour. 193 at the line was your race leader, Ty Hester, in the 36. And now look at that, just charged at that outside groove got. Carlos, they were about 4 car lengths behind Ty Hester coming out of turn number 4. And now Ed Bray and the number 6 of Jared Haggerty side by side for the race lead.
I'm telling you, that outside line is going to come, pardon me, that the race win is going to come from somebody getting to that outside line and passing the race leader, because the tandem draft is real. I don't think these guys can hold it as long as the Cup drivers are able to do it back in the late 2000s, pardon me, early 2010s. But oh man, it's there, and that 2-car tandem is working like a beast, at least for half a lap. As we see that 66 and the 6 backing it up again. They're not doing that on purpose. That's just happening if they get another good run. If that inside line checks up, these 2 guys are going to clear themselves, because it's happened before in this race. However, they need to be careful, and they need to make sure they are clear, because if they're not, we can get a wreck incredibly similar to what we saw in lap number 4.
You know what, Carlos, I'm looking at this current leaderboard, and out of the top 10 drivers, the only driver to start inside the top 10 was the 46 of Chris Stouffer. Every other driver has gained lots of positions to be up here near the front. Richard Fletcher has gained 33 spots from 39th, shotgun on the field, all the way up to 6th. So great run so far for Richard Fletcher. Hopefully he can keep it up here in the closing laps. I know he said, I said this earlier, he didn't think he'd be in the Premier Series this year, but he is here tonight, the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series in the Glass Door Brewing 250, putting on a show for his fans in that U.S. Air Force machine. And here comes Ed Bray, going to jump down to the inside groove and take the race lead. So once again, the 66 out front, he's been very strong here tonight. He's led on multiple occasions. And look at Ty Hester all over the back bumper of that number 66.
You want to know what my favorite car is right now? And a car that I think is going to end up winning is the 36 goes up on the outside. Almost like I say, he was trying to get a position. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at the car I think is going to win tonight. Yes, it's that one right there, the number 3 of James Lorello. As I'm kind of rooting for you, man. You better take that car to victory lane.
Yeah, a whole bunch of damage on the front end of that number 3 machine. He got that damage in the first accident that we had here tonight, which was in the first 5 laps. I think it was around lap number 4. And Lorello has just held on for dear life in that number 3 machine in this lead pack. It seems like he can get up to around 7th position or so, but only time can tell whether or not he's going to be able to get the checkered flag here tonight, as once again Ty Hester going to put his nose out front in that number 36 Toyota, but Edwin Bray says not so fast with help from the 34 of Kelsey Rogers right there. We also have a Chevy on the inside groove of Chris Stouffer, so 3 Chevys on the inside, 2 Toyotas and a Ford on the top side, trying to get to victory lane here as we're closing in on just 25 miles, 10 laps to go here around the famed Daytona International Speedway, the World Center of Racing as it is dubbed. Right here the start-finish line, 10 more times round this famed racetrack.
Yeah, 10 laps to go as the excitement is all the way through the roof, and I hope these guys are able to go the rest of this race green, because if they do, we're definitely bound for a fantastic finish. We'll see if these drivers can get any closer to the finish. We witnessed last night with the Sim Possible Racing League, they got a 7 thousandths of a second finish as Tanner Sharp in the number 3 machine ended up getting the win. As it seems likely we may get a repeat of that, as in the 3 wins, that'll be back-to-back nights for 3Y TV. I don't know, Peter, who are you liking out there?
You know who I'm keeping an eye on, Carlos? I'm also keeping an eye on the number 81 machine, the Surf Pro Ford of Shane Parrish. He's kind of laying back off of this lead group, and that's not a bad idea right now. They're getting really, really racy up there, and that number 81 machine, we're on board with him right now. You can see he's giving himself a little bit of a buffer to the number 7 machine right in front of him. And if something was to happen, an accident right in front of him, he has the opportunity to back off the throttle, make some moves, try and avoid it, hit the brake if he needs to, and possibly could come away with a clean race car when it matters most if there's an accident here. But we're going to have only 8 laps to go as he's starting to close in on that lead group. It's going to be a fantastic finish here. I think this is brewing for one of the best finishes we've seen on American Sim Racing Series over the past year and a half, and we've seen some excellent finishes.
Yes, we got some lap traffic that they're approaching. We'll see where that traffic decides to go, either inside, outside, or maybe below the apron to let these guys go without any issues, as the car is choosing to go on the outside. Side by side by side by side, many rows back. It's 8 laps to go. These guys are not going to back out. If there's a wreck in front of them, you bet your Bunsen burner they are not going to get off of that gas.
Oh no. I'll tell you what, if you're in this lead group, this lead pack, if something happens, you probably don't even have the opportunity to get on the brake. Things just happen so fast at this racetrack, and that's kind of going back to what I was talking about with Shane Parrish. At least he's giving himself a little bit of a buffer. But if you're one of these drivers, man, you can throw a blanket over him right now, and if something happens, it happens. You just gotta hope you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, quick note for those Will Worcester fans, you guys do see him in the midst of this pack. He is, however, 2 laps down, so he is not in contention to win this race at the moment. But he is in the pack, though, just minding his own business, hanging out, trying not to lose any more laps.
Yeah, and that is heartbreak with that speeding penalty. The race leaders, however, are catching some lap traffic here, Carlos, and this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. We got Sam Crow in the number 2 machine, the 02 machine. He is in 24th. He's currently scored as the last car in the lead laps. Eric Stanford, one of the Surf Pro machines, as well as Richard Stallings. So Stallings, once this pack goes by, it looks like Stallings will be the last car in the lead lap. They're going to stay high and let all of the leaders go down low below them. Good move by that group just to kind of stay out of the way here in the closing laps. And there you go, on board with the 02 machine. You see those leaders kind of disappearing. And the 17 of Stallings trying to get in line as to not lose any more ground on that lead group. But we're going to have only 5 laps to go. And here comes the number 50 of Bouchard, going all the way up to the top side. Ooh, getting close there with the number 43 machine of Richard Fletcher through the trial. But the 43 lets him back in. So these race drivers getting racy now. It really is time to go for the checkered flag, and Edward Bray still holding on to the race lead. That outside groove led by Ty Hester, who's led the most laps here today. They have really, out of the 2 of those drivers, the 66 and the 36, they have led a significant portion of this race, and it will be interesting to see what they do here. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! The 36 jumping up to the top side of the racetrack there briefly. It looked a little bit suspicious there, but he got a huge shot from the number 6 machine, and now the 36 of Ty Hester on the inside group. But look at that outside line, getting a push from the 50 of Bouchard. There goes the number 6 of Haggerty side by side for the race lead.
Yeah, when that 36 when that 36 went all the way down to the inside line after going all the way up, it just checked up that inside line, and that outside line just got a mammoth of a run as still maintaining that run, exiting the corners. That's usually when The outside line gets the momentum exiting the corner and throughout the whole straightaway, so whether it's the front and the back. They usually lose it throughout the corners right there, as you are seeing, but with a track like this and where the start-finish line is at Daytona, maybe the inside line plays a little bit more of a factor than Talladega, but 3 laps to go. These drivers are going side by side. I just cannot wait to see how this race is going to end up.
Yeah, I mean, a fantastic job by all of these drivers. Remember, they were on pit road 23 laps ago under green flag conditions. This has been the longest green flag run, about a 50-plus lap
50.
green flag run. Yeah, the 50 up there, that's Christopher Bouchard trying to make a move, trying to make it 3 wide, see if he can get anyone to go with him. They say no, and Bouchard up by the wall by himself. No one pushing him up there, but for now it's still Ty Hester in the 36 machine, as we'll have 2 laps to go this time by. Will anyone else make a move? Look at that outside groove. Kelsey Rogers in the 34 gets a huge shot from the number 6 machine, and Rogers led at the start-finish line. 2 laps to go. I think we're in for a side-by-side finish. Look at that, about 10 cars back, getting real racing. Oh, Fletcher right there in the 43, getting really tight with the 46 machine of Stouffer. Man, oh man, Carlos, this chess match isn't quite over yet. Look at the 34 getting a run. Ooh, looks like the 43's backing out of it. Fletcher's gonna drop to the back of this group here. I think he thinks there could be a major melee here in the closing laps. Not quite sure, but look at Stouffer up top, 3 wide for the race lead, coming to the white flag.
Yeah, 2 wide for the race lead right now. So 57 thought about making it 3 wide. We got a lot of Woolworths Racing fans out there, and they're cheering on the 57 right now as double file back to back to back for the first 6 spots. As that 50 car has been trying to make that 3rd line work, but the people are not afraid as we're on the last lap. Oh my God, Peter, I don't know who's gonna win this.
They're side by side down the back stretch, just 1.25 miles left to go. Ooh, the 50. Oh, contact! The 57 and the 50 are in the wall, and that's it for the 57. Cars going around. The 50 spinning, but we're still green. There's still no caution. They'll race this one out. Ty Hester all by himself in the 36 machine. Here comes the 66 of Edward Bray. We're going to be side by side. Here comes the 34 on the high side. 3 wide, checkered flag. Then it's Ty Hester getting the checkered flag, and they're wrecking. Coming across the start-finish line, but that man right there won the 3 wide race across the start-finish line, and our first winner of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series and winner of the Glass Door Brewing 250, the 36 of Ty Hester in that Kirkwood Transportation Toyota Camry. Man, oh man, Carlos, I'll tell you what, for as exciting of a finish as that was, a couple wrecks on the final lap, 3 wide at the start-finish line, that man right there deserves to go to victory lane. Led the most laps here tonight, and a hard charge from the number 66 of Edward Bray and the 34 of Kelsey Rogers, just unable to unseat him at the top of the charts. What a finish.
What a fantastic race to watch. It's a race that I'm sure you guys all had a great time. I had a great time, and just congratulations to 36, one of the best pushers, one of the fastest cars of the night. As we're going to go quiet for a little bit, as we just want to hear him tear it up.
And there he goes, unleashing a little bit of Goodyear tire smoke up into the crowd. I'm sure all those virtual fans will get to enjoy the virtual tire smoke, but I'm sure Ty Hester is going to get to go to victory lane here in the Glass Door Brewing 250, and I'm sure he's going to absolutely enjoy it. There's a couple of teammates there at the line. There comes the number 6 of Jared Haggerty, giving him a little bit of a nose bump. You know, fist bumps are a thing. Well, nose bumps are as well. Looks like a couple of those drivers have gone to victory lane already, gotten off the racetrack, but wow, what a finish that was, Carlos.
We're going to go ahead and take a quick break so we can dissect some of those incidents and take a look at the photo finish of the last lap. Is going to go take a quick listen to our race sponsor, so please just hold right on. Pardon me, not our race sponsors, one of the series sponsors. I apologize.
Life happens everywhere, like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and servpro.com.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
All right, welcome back, race fans. Let's take a look at that backstretch last lap incident. Let's go ahead and speed it up just a little bit and slow it down once again because I have the volume cracked all the way up. The 57 and the 50. The 50 was always trying to make that third outside line work, and I don't know if the 57 didn't see him or if the 50 came back down. We'll take a look at it one more time and try to get another view of it as the 57 of correct strikes one ended up wrecking in the backstretch. And then we'll also take a look at that beautiful photo finish. Is trying to see what's going on with the cameras here. Let's bring it back down a couple seconds again, and there we go. Better angle here.
Yeah, Carlos, what I'm seeing is the number 66 moved up of Edward Bray, and I think the 57 just kind of reacted to it, and when he reacted to it, the 50 was right to his outside, and they made that contact. But here is the photo finish, and this is going to be watched over and over and over and over again by Ty Hester, and Edward Bray trying to see if he could do anything. Look at how the 34 machine just snuck to his outside there, and that number 36 going to victory lane by 25 1/1000ths of a second. Look at that, 5 cars and only 92 thousandths of a second to separate those 5 cars. In fact, the front 4 only 57 thousandths of a second separating them. What a great finish.
I hit the wrong button, so the replay viewing is done for now. But wow, just a close finish. Congratulations to the 36 of Ty Hester. As we're not going to go ahead and try to talk to some of your race finishers. As going to go ahead and give Peter a little bit of time and give these drivers a little bit of time to get on the Discord and talk to us. As let's take a look and let's go over some of the race details tonight. 100 laps overall, 2 cautions. So great job, American Sim Racing Series. I'm sure they wanted to see a big 0 on that, but 2 cautions ain't so bad. 8 laps under caution. Fastest lap being 45.57 by Bucard, who ended up finishing in 11th. So Christopher did not get the finish he wanted. A lot of these drivers didn't get the finish they wanted, but he did get the fastest lap. And well, it's been one fantastic second race here in the Daytona week. The Daytona Speed Week here with a 3Y TV, and we had Sim Possible last night with photo finish. We have ASRS tonight, photo finish. We have Sim Possible tomorrow with the Cup cars. So tune in at 8 if you want to catch some more Cup Series racing with disabled drivers. It's we're expecting to have another photo finish. As Peter, who have you caught up with?
Well, I have actually caught up with the third place finisher tonight, and of course that being the number 34 machine of Kelsey Rogers. Kelsey Rogers, Peter Short here in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Hey, go ahead, Peter.
Well, man, you were leading there right towards the end, and you had that number 34 machine out front for a good portion of the last half of the race, but unfortunately comes up just 2 spots short. But man, oh man, what a finish. I know as a race car driver, you always want to get to victory lane, but to have a finish like that, I know that is going to be something that will be in the back of your mind as something that was very, very exciting from your perspective. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I would say since my time here on the iRacing service, that was my first 3-wide race for a Daytona win, so that was pretty fun. I was talking to Jared there. He just said he lost his help behind there on the last lap, and I just saw his truck disappearing in the rearview mirror and knew that I was kind of hung out to dry there on the outside. But hey, we'll take third.
Yeah, definitely a great way to start your season. And you had a good season last year. You had a lot of really good finishes, but kind of lacked that little jump to get to victory lane. Is that going to change this year? And are you looking forward to running the Cup car all year?
Yeah, I think we'll be here all year. I mean, it's quite a commitment to commit to all the races throughout the year, but I mean, we'll be here as much as we can. We still like to go racing in the real world on some weekends and during the week, but yeah, we'll be here all year.
All right. Well, we're very much looking forward to it. Of course, we go next week all the way across the country to Las Vegas for the Victory Lane Quick Oil Change 200. What are your thoughts about going to Vegas this early in the season?
I like it. I think next week we'll see kind of how everybody's going to race together. I think we got so many new faces in the league this year that today, I don't know if you can really base on, get a good vibe on how the new guys are going to race. So next week will be good for that. And yeah, we'll just have to see with the new tire model.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, this new tire model with the heat in the tires being very, very important, especially early in the middle portion of the run. Have you done some testing with that? And do you kind of know what to expect? Or are you kind of going into it blind?
Yeah, it seems like with the tire model, I haven't done the cup cars so much, but it seems like everything's pretty much slot car racing for the first on the mile and a half, the first half of the run. And then if you can save a tire, just put less input into the wheel going through the corners. You should have something for them in the second half. So it'll be fun.
All right. Well, Kelsey, best of luck next week in the Victory Lane Quick Oil Change 200. But before we let you go, you got some shout outs for us?
Yeah, just Sam. I know Jim was up there today in the booth, and I think Sean Music was up there officiating. Shout out to them. And then you and Carlos and Peter up there in the booth. You guys do a great job as always.
All right, man. Well, we will see you this time next week and hopefully back up here in the 3Y TV booth at Las Vegas. Best of luck, Kelsey.
Yep, take care, guys.
All right. Well, that is your third place finisher, the driver of the number 34 machine of Kelsey Rogers. But I believe that Mr. Carlos Acosta has caught up with your second place finisher, the number 66 machine of Ed Bray.
Yes, I believe I have. Is Edward Bray, is that you over there?
Yes, it is.
Well, Edward, may I call you Ed?
Yes, you can.
All right. No, I'm just joking, Edward. You had one of the fastest cars out there. Same thing with the 36 at Ty Hester, just pushing vehicles, moving your way to the front, and just repeating it back and forth, favoring the outside line, may I add. It just seemed like that was your favorite terrain. Just finishing second, how would you describe your race overall?
Oh, the Boswell's Country Rose, Harley Davidson, Chevy Camaro was great tonight. I mean, the setup was perfect. Like you said, yes, I did like that middle lane. I was just trying to get that side draft and trying to get up there until hopefully waiting for somebody to get behind me and help, and we can make it to the front, which happened a couple of times. But car handled great tonight.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and I'm sure you definitely wanted to get the win. If you had a couple more laps, or maybe at least one more lap, is there anything different you would have tried?
Actually, if I'd had Haggerty right behind me, I probably would have beat Hester by a nose. That's what I was hoping that was going to happen, but evidently he was not close enough.
Well, you were definitely up front where it counted, leading 22 laps, and just a very, very exciting race that you and the rest of the fine drivers of the American Sim Racing Series have provided tonight. Before we do let you go and give your shout-outs, we want to talk about this upcoming season. Is there anything you're excited to try out? Is there anything you're looking forward to? What's your thoughts?
I'm looking forward to working with my LA Sim Sport team. Lee Staples is the owner. It's a great team. We have some big stuff coming up for this year, and we're definitely a threat to reckon with. So big shout out to my fans and all, and looking forward to this season.
Well said, well said. Well, one last thing before you go. Do you have any shout-outs you want to go ahead and give out?
Shout outs,
Yeah.
sponsor wise.
Anything.
Uh,
Time is
Big
yours.
shout out, to Roy Bennett, who's the general manager for Boswell's Country Roads HD, who allows me to put their logos on my car. Big shout out to my fiance out there, family that's possibly watching, and my teammates. A couple of them couldn't make it tonight, but they were actually watching and rooting me on, and Alan. So that's pretty much about it. I appreciate it.
Well said, well said. Well, thank you so much. We hope you have a great time, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that was your second place finishers. I believe Peter Short is caught up with the race winner of a close race. I believe the final tally was 2.5 hundredths of a second.
That is correct. I'm down here with the winner of the Glass Door Brewing 250 and the first winner of the 2020 Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, Ty Hester. And Ty, you led a good number of laps here tonight. You had that number 36 machine out front, clean air on the nose of it. And at the end of the race, track position was very, very important. Just tell us a little bit about your race and how important that track position actually was.
All I can first say is, wow. I hope that looked good on TV.
Oh, it did.
That was crazy. To really be honest, when we first started all the Daytona races, our duels and stuff, my first thought was making the race. That was my first thought, and to come to, it's not the last one. Tomorrow's the last one, but actually win one is crazy. I actually barely made it in the field. Finished 8th in my duel, and I never would have thought would have won the race. But my strategy was I wanted to stay up front, as I knew I could muscle my way up front. Led a bunch of the truck race last week, only to have an accident at the end. But that was my strategy: stay up front and good pit stops, and just stay clean.
Well, I'm looking at the ASRS drivers chat right now, and a lot of people are singing your praises, and really praises in general for everyone in this race tonight. Only 2 cautions here tonight. And how fun was it from the driver's perspective out there? I know, being a race car driver myself, you want those races to have green. Now, what was going through your mind when you had those green flag pit stops? I mean, very, very exciting race there. The last half of the race was absolutely awesome to watch.
Yeah, it was, to be honest, I normally find a way to mess up pit stops, not on purpose, of course, but I had, 2 perfect green flag pit stops, and just glad we didn't mess that up. But it was great. It was fun. Actually, I think I've uttered words to some of my buddies in Discord that I got bored there for a minute leaving. And when we were all single file, I said, "This is kind of odd. I don't think we've ever done this before." And no, it was very fun from the driver's seat, at least, being clean and be able to jump out of line past people. I'd like to do it all over again, maybe.
Well, we'll have to see whether or not you can get back to victory lane on one of the other super speedways later in the year. Of course, we do go to Talladega on April 28th. But before we get there, we have a lot of other races, one of those being Las Vegas next week, the Victory Lane Quick Oil Change 200 miles around that joint. What are your thoughts about Las Vegas?
For some reason, I never used to be better at the mile and a halves and short tracks. I stayed after Martinsville in our Wednesday series. It feels pretty much the same, but I feel like I've gotten a lot better at the super speedways, and now I just got to figure out how to keep the right front on the keep the right front on the car and the and everything else, truck and Xfinity cars on the mile and a half. So I feel like the new tire models helped maybe not. Maybe it's the aero package. Maybe it's something. But never used to be this good at the super speedways until this year. So maybe it's a tire, maybe not. But we'll get there. Hopefully, we'll be doing a lot better at the mile and a half, since that's what we mostly run. But yeah, looking forward to it. We'll see how it goes. Like to keep my good year starting off good with a good run next week.
Yeah, we'll see if you're able to back up this Glass Door Brewing 250 with a win next week at Vegas. But it is a long season. There's a lot of races this year. Are there any racetracks, any one singular racetrack? I know you just mentioned Martinsville and a couple mile and a half, but is there one racetrack that you would like to circle on this calendar and say, I want to win that race?
I probably, if I had to really add one, I would say Bristol. It's another good track I'm good at, so that would probably be stay clean there also, and hopefully win that one.
Yeah, of course, Bristol will also be part of the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown, so a win there would be great. And also, we go there in the round of 8. So, pretty cool racetrack. Bristol Motor Speedway, completely different from Daytona International Speedway, where you got the checkered flag here tonight. But before we let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
I would like to thank Jay for sponsoring the race and bringing his company on. Jim, Sam, and Sean for adminning tonight. I think they did a great job, as always. Might not agree with them all the time, but no, they did a fantastic job keeping this, let's see, what do you call it? Keeping all the leaves on the tree, per se, I guess. So, and my teammates, which they didn't make the Daytona race, but I did have some good friends that helped me out in the 6 car, keep me up front when I needed it.
It was an absolute fantastic show for that number 36 here tonight, and congratulations on going to Victory Lane, and also best of luck next week when we go to Vegas all the way across country. Ty Hester coming home with the checkered flag. Best of luck, Ty.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, Carlos, my, what an absolute spectacular show here tonight. I mean, I think this show has been one of the best races I've ever seen on iRacing and out of the American Sim Racing Series. What a way to kick off the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. But why don't we see if we can drag in Mr. Menards himself, formerly number 42 of Jim Foose. Jim, welcome to the 3Y TV booth.
Man, I'll tell you what, they since they did this Daytona Rising, they put race control a whole long way away from you guys.
Jim, do you need some glasses up there in the booth or some binoculars?
No, we're pretty good there. We picked some up at our favorite store, which we all know where that.
It can't be Menards, right? Just kidding. It's Menards. Well, it was an absolute spectacular show here tonight. I mean, Ty Hester getting that win right at the start-finish line, 3 wide across the stripe for the win. I mean, as an admin here, I'm sure you're absolutely stoked with how the last half of this race went. Green flag pit stops and no cautions in the closing laps. It was a spectacle, really was.
Yeah, I mean, we really had one caution for. We had 2 cautions for incident. The one I would say was completely avoidable with the internet connection there on the one car, but not the number 1 car, with one of the cars on the track. But yeah, I mean, it's just pretty incredible race. The drivers had it all in their hands to actually drive the cars and to race it here tonight. And just really happy. Great way to start off with Hacksaw PCs. They're going to be with us all season long as title sponsor of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. Just really happy that Glass Door Brewing was on board for the Glass Door Brewing 250. It was pretty cool. They all did a nice job, and everybody that makes this go around, including Surf Pro, who we'll see over with the Surf Pro Wheelman Challenge here in a few weeks. Wheelman Showdown, sorry, in a couple weeks.
Yeah, of course, that Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown. It's going to be quite a few races and someone's going to walk away as the Serve Pro wheelman. And tell us a little bit more about that and just when it starts and what we're going to be looking at for that kind of championship within a championship.
Yeah, we picked. It started out as it was going to be 5 races, kind of similar to what NASCAR used to do with the No Bull 5 and what they have done with the Dash for Cash and the Xfinity Series and the Trip and the trucks. And then we kind of expanded it a little bit, and we came up with 10 races during the season that are at completely different kinds of tracks with a nice mix. You have a Daytona and Talladega date in there and all the short tracks, and then just a couple of the intermediates mixed in to fill out the 10 races. And it just gives you a special championship because they're such hard races. I mean, Darlington is one of the races on that schedule. Martinsville, these are not tracks that you can just hold the pedal to the metal and win at. And that's not taking anything away from any of the drivers that win it at some of the 1.5 miles now with this aero package. But these are wheelman racetracks, and we're just really happy to have Shane Parrish from Serve Pro step up and take care of us over there with the Serve Pro Wheelman Showdown. It's going to be really cool. And then, I mean, it became a bigger deal as we saw some of the things that like ARCA was doing this year with their showdown with the short tracks. And we just wanted to expand on it, mix it up a little bit, and do something really, really cool for our drivers this season.
Yeah, we are very much looking forward to that on 3 Wide TV throughout this year's Hacksaw PC Premier Cup Series. But tell us a little bit about Hacksaw being on board. I know we talked about it last week, but for the people who did not see the Kirkwood duels, just tell us a little bit about Hacksaw and what the champion of the 2020 season will get.
Yeah, Nick over at the Hacksaw PC's really stepped up as well as a title sponsor for the series. Not only did he put money into the championship fund, he is supplying a championship prize, which will be a custom-built PC, race ready, basically for iRacing. Just download, sign in, download, and go. And then the PC is a basic race-ready PC, and then you can add parts on, and Nick's doing those at a discount for our members as well. So whoever wins it, if they want to upgrade parts on it, they're able to do so and kind of customize it even more. But everything that Hacksaw PCs does, they build custom computers. They could build you pretty much anything that you want, from a workstation for work to a racing gaming rig kind of setup like a lot of us have here with the iRacing. So really cool there. I forgot to mention about the Serve Pro Wheelman Showdown that the prize is the Sam Maxwell Customs wheel that went to the champion last year. Just like the one that went to the champion last year. So those 10 races, and you don't have to run the rest of the season. You only have to run the 10 Wheelman Showdown races in order to win the championship on that side. So that's really cool.
Hey, Jim, any chance I could get 10 races off broadcasting?
Did I hear Carlos?
You did hear Carlos. He's wanting time off from the booth to go race. I didn't
say
what I'm
racing.
Hearing.
I just said have some time off.
Nope. The contract is signed. The ink is dry. Everything's good to go with that. We're all.
But that is very, very cool. A couple of big prizes up for grabs this year in the 2020 Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. But Jim, before we let you go, any final shout-outs that you would like to give? I know you probably want to give a shout-out to your mom and dad, both recovering, hopefully well. And, of course, all of us here at 3 Wide TV want to say well wishes to them and hope that everything's going well in that situation.
Yeah, of course. Hopefully they can get better pretty quick, and they seem to be making some good progress, so that's good. I know everybody's been asking. They're making some progress. It's a slow and steady kind of road, but they'll get there eventually. Hopefully, we're trying to figure out if my dad's going to make it home for the Daytona 500 or not. We're kind of hoping that he does, so that he can enjoy that on his own couch. But also a big shout out to the many drivers in the league, including Loud Pedal Motorsports and then the NEO Motorsports team with Steve Buhala that have run decals and run sayings on the back of their car and things wishing them well. So I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't even notice it on the loud pedal cars during the duels when I was officiating that race last week until I was watching it on the big screen Saturday night after the ARCA race was over. So that was pretty cool. So yes, I go back and watch these 3-Wide TV broadcasts. Here I watch our races. I watch some Impossible races and man, those super late model races on the weekends. Whew, those are can't miss.
Yeah, they are a lot of fun. A lot of broadcasting going on right now on 3-Wide TV, but very much looking forward to next week's duel out in the desert. We do go to Las Vegas, and correct me if I'm not, but it is a Victory Lane Quick Oil Change 200 out there. Victory Lane Quick Oil Change jumping on board as a series sponsor this year for the American Sim Racing Series. So we are going to thoroughly enjoy that 1.5 mile racetrack that always puts on good racing then, Jim.
Yeah, and I was practicing. I don't know if I'm going to be in the booth next week for Vegas, but the week after I'll be in the booth. I believe we're at Auto Club with big tracks, some room to get the officiating in, and just really happy. We got Sam Maxwell's doing the main race control, and then we have myself in there tonight. I was watching yellow line violations and connections and things like that, and then Sean Music was our guy down on pit road. Watching for the tire stops and just making sure that there were no violations with cutting the pit road or anything like that where they run to the left of the line that they're supposed to be on. So really cool that we got that, and Sean and Sam are going to be in the race control booth, and I'll be shifting over to the 3-Wide TV booth pretty soon. Maybe next week, but if not next week, then for sure Auto Club here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're very much looking forward to having you in the booth with us here, Jim, this season at multiple points. But I think that is pretty much going to do it. Any final shout-outs?
No, but I hope Carlos has that Menards commercial ready for when I get up there.
We didn't talk about this.
You're a walking Menards commercial there, Jim.
Pretty much. Winter hat, ball cap, shirt. I'm telling you, if Menards sold pants that said Menards and socks and probably underwear that sold Menards, I'd probably wear.
They may not sell those, but they sell the tools to make those.
They absolutely do. Great point. Thank you guys again for everything, and congratulations to Ty Hester on his win. That's a huge win for him and a great way to kick off the ASRS Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series season.
Absolutely. What a finish it was. And Carlos, how about we jump over to those race results here and wrap things up, taking the win, the number 36 of Ty Hester over the 66 of Edward Bray. Those two were really the two fastest race cars out there, leading the most laps. Ty Hester led 37 of the 100 here tonight, almost 100 miles led by that 36 machine. So Ty Hester proving that he can get things done with good track position at this racetrack. Kelsey Rogers finishes in third. Chris Stouffer, good run for him. His debut in the Hacksaw PC Premier Series coming home in fourth. Jared Haggerty coming home in fifth. Shane Parrish in that number 81 machine. Remember I said with about 10 laps to go, he was laying back in the 12th position waiting for a wreck to happen. Well, sure enough, on that last lap, he went from 12th up to 6th position after there was contact on the backstretch. Brandon Stokes comes home in 7th. James Lorello fought a damaged race car for a good majority of the race, and he comes home with a strong 8th place finish here tonight. John Jenkins comes home in 9th, and Craig Stikes, involved in that accident on the last lap, comes home still with a top 10, Carlos.
Yeah, in 11th place we have Christopher Buchard with Jay Kerbel finishing 12th. Clarence Bonner will take home 13th, and 14th will be Pete Baskins. Mitch Brown, definitely not the night he wanted, will be finishing 15th. Troy Haight, 16th. Tim Knott will be finishing 17th, and Michael Krobach in 18th. Brian Yosik will be finishing 19th, and Andy Veltman will be finishing 20th. The majority of these drivers, for some of the drivers that got stuck behind some of the damaged vehicles on their last restart and just were unable to get themselves back together. Hence why they finished 20 and 31 seconds behind. And Peter, why don't you go ahead and take the rest?
Yeah, Richard Fletcher in the number 43 machine. Not quite sure what happened to him. He was with the lead group. The only thing I could think of is Fletcher might have not taken enough fuel on that final pit stop, but he finished 21st. Unless he was also involved in that last lap accident, which I don't think he was. But anyway, he comes home 21st, which is a bit unfortunate with how good he ran all night long. Eric Stanford comes home 22nd, first car 1 lap down. Richard Stallings 23rd. Michael Whiting 24th at 22 was strong early in the race. Alan Young was involved in the first accident of the day, comes home 25th. John Broussard 26th in the number 53 machine. Sam Crow in the 02 finished 2 laps down in 27th. Will Worsler had a speeding penalty, wasn't ever able to overcome that, finishing 2 laps down in 28th. Tyler Seville 29th, 3 laps down. He had quite a good chunk of damage on that car. Jason Eisenhower ran without a hood for, again, the most of the race, and he finishes 6 laps down with a 30th place finish. 31st, Dave Washington in the 89 machine. Jason Stewart 32nd. Danny Rogers 33rd. Greg Evans 34th. Steve Buhala, Woody Mahan, Nick Cohan, Dave Wilson, Alex Giese, and Sean Music. Well, Sean Music, did not start here, but really from 34th on back through 39th, all those cars were involved in the first accident we had here tonight and weren't ever able to recover, unfortunately. But Carlos, what a way to start off the 2020 Hacksaw PC Premier Series for the American Sim Racing Series. I am looking forward to what this season has in the future for us because, man, oh man, if it's anything like it was tonight, this is going to be a spectacular year, Carlos.
Oh, I just cannot wait to see what's in store. It's gonna be such a blast, and I have no words. This is such a fun race to do. I'm glad we're back to do another full season, and it's just gonna be beautiful. Now, before we do go, I do want to say quick thank you to the people that do help out behind the scenes. I want to thank Peter, Cam, everybody that's hopped on, Charles, Greg, that's helped us recently, and I also want to say thank you to OCR's TV for providing the wonderful graphics package that we've been using for a couple months now. I also want to thank SimTV for providing the fantastic camera packages you've been using for almost a year now too. But Peter, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to give a final shout out to some of the sponsors of the American Sim Racing Series. Hacksaw PC, of course, jumping on board sponsoring this series. Surf Pro, DB Sim Racing, American Regardless, Glass Door Brewing, jumping on board sponsoring tonight's race. Victory Lane Quick Oil Change, Kirkwood Transportation, Patriot Media, and Marketing. They were in the chat earlier. Step Tire, and Falcon Race Reps. But for myself, Peter Short, and Carlos Acosta, we want to give each and every one of you a wonderful good night. We'll see you tomorrow night here on 3Y TV for some Sim Possible Racing League action. And, of course, next week, same time, same place, for a more American Sim Racing Series. We'll see each and every one of you next time here on 3Y TV. See ya!